All right, so good evening, everyone. I'm going to call our July 6th meeting to order at 6 o'clock p.m. Due to a scheduling change, the executive session posted on the agenda will be postponed. I request a motion to recess the meeting until 7 o'clock p.m., the time designated on the agenda for the commencement of the open session portion of the meeting.
So motioned.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
You in favor, Ed?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So close.
All right, thank you. So welcome back, board members. Let's begin our open session portion of the meeting at 7:01 p.m. We are announcing that this is being recorded for Groveland Government Television. I need to ask if anyone else in the room is audio or video recording this meeting. No? All right, thank you for confirming. So if you are able, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we're going to start the agenda with the Declaration of Independence presentation. So this is a presentation of a commemorative copy of the Declaration of Independence by Representative Adrian Ramos in honor of the nation's 250th anniversary. Yeah, that'd be great. Just make sure the microphone is on. Make sure it's green.
Well, it's green.
Excellent.
Okay.
It's a good start.
I gotta open my notes here. So, this is for the town of Groveland. It was actually printed in Haverhill, and it is a replica of the official Ezekiel Russell Declaration of Independence, which was printed in Salem in 1776. It's printed on the same linen cotton blend type paper that was used in 1776. In 1776, we were the only colony that distributed copies to all of the cities and towns at the time. And so in honor of the 250th anniversary of the country, we have again distributed or have 351 now copies for every city and town in Massachusetts. And this was just printed right next door in Haverhill. So I am honored to present this to
Great.
the town of Groveland.
Thank you. Could we take a photo op moment real
Yeah,
quick with you? Is that all right?
Yep.
Maybe the board we can all go up front?
You can go up front. We even color coordinated.
You did.
I know, right?
Yeah, I think
Jason's got a little blue, Ed's got a little blue. It's all gonna work.
Very nice.
It's good when a plan comes together.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry I wasn't able to get it to you before the 4th, but it is pretty cool. And I've had a lot of students interested in kind of taking a look at it and reading it and the different letterpress printing. So perhaps it's something you guys share with us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate it, and thank you for taking the time to join our meeting.
Happy to be here. Good to see you guys.
Bye. All right, so next up, we have public comments. Were there any public comment requests submitted? You have one for me, okay. So for public comment, approach the podium. Green light should be on. Give us your name, address, and we'll give you up to 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Larry Lawrence McElhenney, 1 Lee Road. I'm just here on behalf of the Friends of the Groveland Council on Aging. We have started our summer coin drive. There's a container out in the lobby. I hope that when you get out of your car, come into Town Hall, that you look in your coin tray and maybe grab a scoop of coins and drop them off. Exciting news this year, pennies are worth twice as much. We have someone who's willing to pay us 2 cents for every cent that we contain, so your 50-cent roll of coins is now worth $1 to us. So we hope that you will all contribute. Not a big fundraiser, but it does bring in a little bit of money. Every penny that we raise goes to the benefit of the Council on Aging. Thank you.
Great,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Check your dryers, check your couches, right? All right, wonderful, thank you. Next, we have department comment or update. Was there anything? No? Okay. So we'll go right into discussion and possible vote. So first up, we have the pre-demolition hazardous building materials survey for 64 Washington Street, the Valley Screw Building. This is to review and discuss the findings of the pre-demolition hazardous building materials survey for the Valley Screw Building located at 64 Washington Street. So in our packet, we have a robust report with results of the survey, along with conclusions and recommendations from Crederi. Am I saying? Okay, good. Associates. And are you Rick? Yes. Could I ask you to come to the podium for me? Great, thank you so much. So like I said, this was a pretty big report, nice 90 pages, but maybe you could give us some of the highlights of the report?
Yeah, happy to.
Great, thank you.
First off, as you alluded to, I'm Rick Vandenberg. I'm a vice president at Crederi Associates. We were asked by the town to do a hazardous building materials assessment of the Valley Screw Building because of its condition. You know, there were only so many things we could sample in the building, and that's sort of one of the complications. So one of the takeaways that you should have for this. We did find a number of asbestos-containing buildings, and I actually captured them and have them on my phone. So, in a nutshell, there's about 1,400 square feet of brown 12-inch by 12-inch floor tile. There's about 3,500 square feet of gray 12-inch floor tile. There's also a white textured ceiling coat that they sometimes put on ceilings, and we couldn't estimate the amount because there was a lot of this material, and it went into parts of the building that were unsafe. We were accompanied by town personnel, and they were really good at keeping us out of the places that we probably shouldn't go from a safety perspective. There's parts of the building, the floors are falling in, the roof is compromised in a number of places, so it in some regards limited what we could do. But anyway, and the other thing, in addition to that white ceiling, the last asbestos that we tested was some black asphalt shingles, and there's about 12,000 square feet of black tile on the roof. Oh, great. Look at this, technology. I love this. This is awesome. Yeah, and so we can talk about any of these. And so that, in a nutshell, that's what I've read relative to asbestos. There's also lead-containing paint throughout the building, and where that matters is mostly for OSHA and for disposal of building components. That's what you want. That's why you want to be concerned about lead-based paint or lead-containing paint. And then also there's polychlorinated biphenyls, which is PCBs. We've all heard that term before. There's some dark green paint on metal I-beams. Usually some of the metal painted features in a building, whether it's a fire door or I-beams or something like that, ends up having PCBs, and this does. The good news is you don't want, you have PCBs in this case between 1 part per million and 50 parts per million. And that's important. You don't want it to be over 50 parts per million because that can be a different regulated condition, and it costs a lot more to dispose of it. So that's a little bit of good news that it's, while you have PCBs, it's in a limited amount of the materials, and it's under 50 parts per million. And then there's a lot of what we call U-waste in the building. So we sort of have quantified that and have a table in our report that documents, the things. And where this all goes is it speaks to what you're going to do in the future when and if you acquire this property. Obviously, Rebecca's worked hard and Annie have worked hard to try to understand, try to have funds to help bring this down because it's in a dilapidated condition. It could fall down at some point, and if it does, you never know, it could fall into the road. And we've been working also to try to see what pots of money we can. They originally came to. We're also the qualified environmental professional for Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, and they came to Merrimack Valley Planning Commission trying to find a solution and trying to find some funding. Unfortunately, brownfields funding can't be used. And that's the pot of money they have. That funding can't be used on properties that are currently in the Superfund program, and because of the way that's been established, we really couldn't use those funds for that. But they found other pots of money because they've been diligent and working really hard, and so That's where that is. The problem with the asbestos that you have is it's in a dilapidated building. Some of it you may be able to make the building safe and abate it in what I call a traditional fashion, where you just hire an abatement contractor, you make the building safe, and you abate. Like, for example, the different floor tiles that I listed might be able to have that, but the white textured ceilings and the asphalt shingles, because of their location and proximity to unsafe areas of the building, will probably need to be abated through what the state calls a non-traditional work practice, which is something when you're not doing a standard abatement. In this case, you may do demolition, you may wet the building to keep the fibers from getting in the air, bring the building down, and then pick through parts of it. You know what this roof shingle looks like, you know what the textured ceiling looks like, and so to the extent that you can find that all and put it in separate cans, you may be able to segregate a little bit of that. But with regard to the original part of the building, it was in such bad shape that we don't know the scope of the asbestos in that. So it may be that those materials end up going as, you may assume that that whole part of the building ends up being, be abated as a non-traditional work practice, and most of the components, with the exception of concrete and a few other things that we know about, would end up going as asbestos waste. There's a little bit of a silver lining to that, in that it does cost a little bit more for asbestos disposal in that fashion, but I think it ends up leaving the state nowadays. But I think the cost compared to regular C&D it certainly is more, but it's not tremendously more, I guess. So that's a little bit of a silver lining when it comes to that. So I think those are the sort of the salient highlights. I would ask you if you have any questions, and I would love to talk through, anything that you have relative to that.
Yeah, Kathy, I know you and Valley Screw Building have
I
a,
know, I live around the corner.
Oh.
So, yes, I mean, I think the ongoing discussion in this town since I've lived here has been, is it just a neighborhood eyesore, or is it another hazard to our drinking water waiting to happen? Because, yes, the EPA has some test wells, but they don't check them that often, and they're a little farther away from the building, and we know from reports that have been written, I thank Mike Dempsey for his report, the floor of this building, the basement, supposedly was sealed somehow, but originally it was dirt, I think. And when they dumped those chemicals and shut down our well, by the time it was found out that the well had been contaminated, it was too late. So as we sit here and we watch the water from snow and rain go into this building and all the way down through it, and I've read your report, I'll admit I don't understand a lot of the tables, but I understand that you're not able to go down to the area that I'm most concerned about.
Right.
So my question is, how can we gain access to that? Is there a way to send in, a robot or something that can get down there and test that area to see what's happening? Because I'd rather not wait. I mean, I don't feel like removing the asbestos tile, yeah, I'd like to do that. But I'm more concerned with what could be getting into our groundwater and down to our well again.
Yeah.
And it's boggles my mind that nobody is concerned about this, except those of us in Groveland. Like the EPA, I think Rebecca has done the most work that I've ever seen done on this particular issue. And I feel like we need to get access to that floor down there to know for sure, because if we can determine that there is something toxic getting into that ground, well, that should qualify us as a Superfund again, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if you want that, though.
Well, I don't know what we want. What we want is
Yeah.
not to have our well polluted again, because people that did live through that, it was before I moved to town, but I moved to town shortly thereafter. People that had children in town still feel strongly that there was an impact from the contaminated water on their children. And, my age, I think, okay, so what? I don't got that much more to go, but the children matter. And since we've lived through this once before, we don't want to live through this again. So we need to know how to get access to that part of the building where the worst things could be happening. How can we get that tested?
Yeah, so I think it's a fairly straightforward thing, and
Okay.
and with a complicated ending, and that is, you got to make the building safe because you can't send personnel down there. And I'm sure that there is some sophisticated device that you can send down into the building and look in the basement. I would tell you this, that I'm fairly certain from looking at past reports that in terms of waste that were used as a part of operations, that those wastes have long since left the building. In the releases that have seemed to now, obviously haven't been down there. So until we look and see, I'm going by what I've read. It doesn't seem like there's a lot. So I think you make the building safe and you can get down there. The best way to make the building safe is to do what Rebecca's been trying to do, and that is find funding to safely bring the building down, because now you can do it at your leisure. You know, you can go down there and you can figure out what's in there.
Yes, except they feel that we're being asked to take a burden that the EPA should have taken on. They left us with this toxic building that has hazardous things in it, and then they're telling us, don't worry, there's probably nothing really wrong in there. I mean, how many people have driven past that building feel like nothing to worry about?
Yeah.
No, I worry about it every time I drive by, and it's not just pieces of the building falling on somebody. It's we have no real confirmation that that building was secured and that the toxic chemicals that were dumped intentionally by this company,
Yeah.
not accidentally, intentionally, that they're not still maybe in there still. We just don't know. I mean, you saw cans and bins and things. What else is in there? You know, we have an owner that won't do anything. He was allowed to walk away. I'm not sure why. And we're not allowed to take control of the property without everybody on the environmental front coming after us with their fines. So our town is at risk. I feel we're at a very high risk until somebody gets in there and determines that it's really just a few asbestos tiles, because I just don't buy it. I don't believe it until it's proven,
Yeah.
because you can't take that kind of chance. Our whole town survives on the well and the well water, and that's what they polluted. And because of the way that building was built and the fact that we know that basement floor, it was dirt. I think we have really good reason to be highly concerned beyond just removing some, I understand asbestos is bad
Yeah.
and all that, but I just don't feel that anybody is really monitoring this building on behalf of the citizens of Groveland. They come and, yeah, I can go look at their well reports if I can understand them, but nobody has gone in and taken samples from that floor. And that's what I'd like to have done. Take a sample from that floor
Yeah.
and tell us if that has to be removed as well.
Yeah, well, we see this in other places where there were former, industrial operations. I can think of a property in Amesbury, former Coastal Metals, and for a long time they did metal plating there, and the operations have resulted in, the concrete absorbing the chemicals that were spilled on the floors during normal operations. So you're right in terms of I think that we can be fairly certain that there's not a big tank down there containing some chemical. But what I think is most likely.
Actually, I do think they did have that, right?
Yeah, but I
They
don't think
dumped
they're.
it
I
on
guess
purpose.
my point is.
I
Yeah,
mean,
my point is
let's
it's not
be
there
honest.
anymore.
We don't know what else they could have done down
Yeah.
in the basement.
No, I understand that, but I think that as a part of the process that they used to close out the facility,
Yeah.
they did what's called a reclosure, and so as a part of that, they would have been looking for pipes that contain waste and vessels that contain waste, and so I think we can be pretty comfortable that some of those don't exist. But what I'm concerned about is whether or not there's any concrete that might be desorbing when you're having rainwater and contributing to what you see in the groundwater. That's really the question. I mean, if you want to ask yourself a question, I
Right.
think that's the question to ask. And I think it's an astute question that needs to be answered. And I unfortunately would say to you that until such time as the building's made safe, like, you can't send any people down there. So, and I don't know of, at least around in these parts, a robotic device that will go down there, especially to sample concrete.
Well, the
Because
roof
you
is
you have
wide
to go down there and
open.
you
I
have to
mean-
core the concrete.
Right, but if the roof is wide open, couldn't it's not a tall building. I would think that some type of machine could get over and go down in and get samples of the concrete
I think
and
it's a
of.
pretty complex problem to get down into that. Yeah, and I'd love to think it were simple and it was something that we could do very
I-
easily, but I don't
Yes.
think it's quite as simple.
I bet it's not simple. I agree with you, but I do feel that before I'm going to say, oh, I want to secure the building and gather up asbestos tiles, I really want immediately or as soon as possible,
Yeah.
some sampling done to make sure that this stuff is not getting into the well water that we're
Yeah.
drinking.
Yeah, I want to be clear, though, that the hazardous building materials assessment was done as a means to an end. It was just, hey, we need to get this building down level to make it safe from a public safety standpoint. And are there any materials in it that are going to complicate that future demolition of the building? And so that's really what we were charged with doing.
Right.
And so we did that. In addition, we also developed a site plan that can be then used for development of plans and specifications to help identify how that building, plan how the building can come down, and the additional characterization that you look for. That can be part of it.
So who would have the authority to pay for this and do this for us?
So that, you just asked the million-dollar question. I think I originally did an estimate for the town. What was my estimate? Do you remember?
For the town to pay for it?
Yeah, we just did an engineer's estimate of what it would cost in the marketplace to bring the building down. It was roughly 1.2. And the hazardous building materials, now, we can now use some of that information to try to update that cost to figure it out. So finding a funding source is the issue, and it is complicated by the fact that it's already participating in the Superfund site, in the Superfund program, excuse me.
They're
So.
not doing anything.
Well, I understand that, but the problem is it's putting handcuffs on using other federal funds. So that's part of why Rebecca has been ringing the bell constantly about this site and trying to raise awareness that here's this problem.
Yeah.
We got to have a solution to it, and we talk every now and then and try to figure out, like, what other things can we be doing, and if we didn't have the Superfund designation on that parcel around the building, there would be a lot more that we could do.
So if we can get that removed, then we can become of this brownfield thing?
You would
That's
then
the
be eligible.
aftermath of a cleanup, right?
You would be eligible for brownfields funding
Yep.
if it were not
No,
participating
I've
in
had
this.
residents have asked me about why we can't get that.
Yes, no, 100%. It's because it's basically considered a federal double dipping because it's in the brownfields program, it's in the Superfund program, already getting money, and then now you want to layer some other federal funds in the form of brownfields funds on top of it, and that's why.
Okay, so that's a path that we could try.
And we've had discussions with them on several occasions about removing that. And I think that continuing to ring the bell on that will eventually especially because if they're not going to do anything more on the parcel that contains the building, which is most concerning to people, they should remove it from the Superfund. The problem is, for them, I would say that their response is going to be that there's a lot involved with removing that, and I don't know why they just don't bring it down. If it were me, I'd want to bring it down inside the program and say this is a hazard. It's time to bring it down because it's going to fall on the road, and we don't know when whether it's a public safety concern.
But we don't own this,
Correct.
so we would need somebody.
Somebody's spending money on the property in the Superfund program right now, so they could be compelled to, that's what we've been after.
Okay.
Trying to compel them to use some of those dollars to do that.
Okay.
And we have asked them to delist the building specifically from the Superfund site and leave the rest of the property, just so that we could access those funds to demolish the building itself, so that we could then further investigate and take appropriate next steps. But they were adamant that they would not remove it from the Superfund site. So then, as part of that process, they had mentioned that there is another federal program that would allow for federal dollars to be used for the demolition of a building if, through the Mass DEP process, I think there's a formal name, but if there was asbestos on the property, that they could contribute some monies towards the demolition of the property. Mass DEP went out, they did some initial sampling, and they had not found anything, and that just flabbergasted us. We said that there's no way that there's no asbestos on that site with the original construction. And so that's when, through an earmark through Senator Tarr's office, we were able to find funds to enlist Credere Associates to come in and do additional testing, a little bit more of a robust testing inside the building, and we talked to the property owner to get access to do so. That's when we came up with this report. And just recently, when we received this on June 12th, I had sent over another correspondence to both the EPA and Mass DEP. Rick saw the document, and we kind of, again, pleaded our case. Our hands are tied here. What is it that we can possibly do? If you're not going to delist it, we have no Brownsfield money. We don't want to accept the liability. We wouldn't put that on the taxpayers. The property owner's not doing anything. What other ways can we reactivate the site and demolish the building, or at least take the first step and demolish the building? I have yet to hear a response to that email, but I do have another move next, is to again go through the state delegation as well as our congressional delegation to enlist their support to again get the EPA and Mass DEP on a call to go over that letter and see if there's anything else that we can kind of do in order to push this along. So it has been one roadblock after another, but we continue to try and see whatever there's a little wiggle room, we push that as far as we possibly can, but we just haven't been able to get a lot of progress.
Okay. But you did mention sampling the concrete? That
Yeah, we
hasn't been-
sampled some concrete for asbestos in other parts, not in the basement.
But, yeah, so that you think that could be helpful too. The more we know about what's in that building, the better.
Of course.
I'm just surprised. I think was it the state EPA that refused to issue a letter saying that there was nothing to worry about? We asked them to tell us nothing to worry about.
Well, they said it's a declared Superfund site. They're still monitoring the site, so they're not saying that there's nothing wrong with it. They're saying that the levels are within reasonable limitations under the EPA regulations that allows it to exist without further intervention from them. That's why they were able to decommission the water treatment facility that they had put in that back building in order to clean up the site. So they're not saying that it's not clean. They're just saying that it's not at levels that would require their intervention, from my understanding.
Yeah.
But their intervention happens when our well is polluted. Yeah. We'd rather not wait for that. So that is, it seems like we've gotten this far. I would hope we can get further, but I monopolized you.
No, this is your
I
passion
know.
project here, I get it.
I know, I cannot believe that we can't make enough noise to get somebody to take this seriously and hold them responsible for not doing anything all these years and leaving this, not only does it have, like you said, asbestos and other things in it, but we also know that children or teenagers are getting inside the building. We've seen the evidence of that.
Yep.
So we're aware of all these things. It's not just something horrible to look at.
Yeah.
It's an accident waiting to happen at best. And if at worst, there's more chemicals that we could be dealing with.
Jason?
Write that up for us.
No questions for you? Ed, do you have any questions for Rick?
What about, I know it takes some time, but what about a forced bankruptcy on the owner? Go to court, get a forced bankruptcy.
That's really not a question for me. I don't know. I think it's the process in Massachusetts. It's very deliberate and a very long process to go that route. That's about all I know about that particular process. Although you still end up with a property, so That's the biggest thing. My advice has been to try to find the funds ahead of acquiring the property, because there are back taxes owed, and that's a more simple process to do an involuntary taking. And in the EPA world, that means something very specific. That means you're not liable for what's there. So that's an important distinction to do an involuntary taking like that. Do it that way, but it also doesn't mean at the same time that you don't have to do something about what's there. So if you take a contaminated property, you have to go in eyes wide open and understanding because your first move would be, we're taking this property, this building needs to come down. We're having funds in your back pocket already when you make that move is the best way to do that. And that's why Rebecca had spent time asking for a detailed estimate, an engineer's estimate to do this hazardous building materials. It's setting I know it's not the answer that you really need, but it's setting the base for all the things that will eventually come. And there will be a time, I'm hoping, that we're going to get to a point where somebody's going to see the light and we're going to do the right thing about this building, and it's going to get delisted, or there's going to be inside the program they decide to invest some funds towards it. But it just depends on how much funding they receive in their program to be able to do this. This particular site is the operations of sort of the active operations have ceased, and they're doing this active monitored natural attenuation, which means they go and sample the wells and they look at the data and they look at the data trends on a graph and to go, oh, we're trending towards cleaning this up over the next X number of years. And that's so that you can tell there's not a lot of investment currently from the program in the site. So when they get enough money, I think that's when they can do something about it.
And when we talked about the bankruptcy option, the other issue is that the EPA and Mass DEP are not going to forgive their liens. So any money, what we would get through the forced bankruptcy would automatically go to the federal and state government and wouldn't go back to the town to demolish the building while still absorbing the risk of the property itself. So that was some of the feedback that we received from council, is that, and plus when we had the conversation with Mass DEP and EPA, they said that if we were to go through the route of trying to foreclose on the property, they would forgive those liens under certain conditions. But in terms of a forced bankruptcy, it's a different legal process, and therefore those conditions would no longer apply, and they would want their money back for the cleaning up of the site.
And even if we did do the involuntary taking, and we wouldn't be held responsible, the owners of the property still would be, but there's no money there anyway. We would still have to come up with the money to get rid of the building, anything that happened after the fact.
You have that correct.
So it does sound like if we can have the building removed from the Superfund site, isolated from it, that might be a good step for us.
We thought that more than a year ago. I think maybe it wasn't even 2 years ago that was kind of what we
Section that
wanted
off.
to see done. Yeah.
We just said to delist the building. Keep the property under it, but just
Yeah.
delist the building itself so that we can access additional funds, which they're plentiful of removing the
Okay.
building under the
Right, because the
brownfield.
land itself is, most everything says in perpetuity, so it's forever.
Yeah,
So it's not a matter of getting that delisted, but if you can get them to do just the building.
right, so if we, is that
Have you ever seen a
something?
Superfund get delisted?
Please?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't happen often. They're long cycle programs. These are 30+ to 40-year projects. I mean, that's how they operate, because that's the way they were set up to operate. There were big problems that needed to be solved over a long time.
All right.
But it might be possible to delist the building, to just,
From my reading,
The
you have
angle
to
that we're
meet
going.
certain thresholds, so you have to prove that it meets certain contamination or has satisfied certain contamination thresholds, where it's kind of like a catch-22, because what are we doing here? We're trying to show that there's contamination, so I'm not really sure we would meet.
well, Right now, you could show that you understand when you get the ability to demolish, that you're going to have to deal with asbestos.
Yes,
So,
as well.
to delist the building in order to gain access to funds to help deal with the asbestos would be the argument, I think that would,
And that's what we've been trying to argue, is that with the exposure to the elements, the exposure to the air, the exposure to rain, by delisting it and allowing us to take care of those contaminants, which typically fall within the Brownsfield monies, that would allow us to then solve the immediate problem while taking a more thoughtful approach about our long-term solution with the property as a whole. And they just have not necessarily provided any mechanism for us to do so.
we have to keep trying.
And they have some monitoring wells around the building, so. it-
They do, they're down the
Yeah.
drive, though. I mean, they're not like
Exactly.
right up at the building.
Right, so,
Yeah,
their answer, the short answer may be, like, if you just wanted the footprint of the property back to the road, you know?
yep,
I want the shadow of that, and that's it. They may say, it's a data gap. We don't know, because we don't have stuff maybe through the basement, and so maybe if we can get them on a pathway to doing that, some of your questions may be answered
Yep.
about what's directly under the building.
Right.
So, I mean, at a minimum, you might get those answers if they're moving towards that, because I think that they would want to understand that before they said, okay, we can delist.
right. And also understand that, there is the hazard of that building falling towards the road or pieces of it. And again, there's children, there's bus stops, it's right near the park. It's a busy area.
Yeah.
Not a great place to have a couple of bricks come flying around, There's houses close by,
Not at all.
close, the property around it. You saw, it's the mill area of Groveland.
Yep.
So, with the idea that we want to try and do the right by it, we need to get access to the funds to be able to do that. You think they might, if we petitioned that way?
Delisting is the option, and I'm trying to see if you can apply pressure, political pressure, or other pressures
Yep.
to make them
Okay.
do it inside the program. Because the best scenario is they take care of it from a public safety standpoint, and you don't have to acquire it now, but it's made safe.
Yep.
At a minimum, they bring it down, they fill in they test, and they fill
Yep.
in all the holes.
That would be perfect.
Make it safe. And then you haven't had to spend dime one. Rebecca can get on to more important things in the
Yeah.
town.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, your project will go away, but I think you'd be happy.
She'll find something else.
I'll
Right.
find a new project. There's always a new project.
Good.
No, I mean, I think if we could gain that kind of consideration and get it secured and sealed up and everything removed that needs to be removed, that would be the best of all worlds, and it would leave, something that's been ongoing since, 1988, I think, is when it started, 1986, around there, right?
Yep.
Before
It
that?
was in the 80s.
1980s, early 80s? There was no swimming beach when we moved to town, so, mid-70s.
Mid-70s.
Yeah, that was a town beach,
Yeah.
not anymore. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So next steps, as far as this goes, you just have to collect all this information and find a way to use it, right? Build your case.
Correct. So we did send the correspondence over to Mass DEP and EPA refuting their original findings that Mass DEP did for the testing of asbestos. I've yet to hear back. The next step is to, again, coordinate with our state and federal delegation
Okay.
to see whether or not we can pull another meeting together to, again, address the concerns brought forward as part of this analysis, as well as what we had stated in our correspondence, and again, apply as much political pressure as we possibly can to see whether or not there's any alternative solutions, and/or for them to give us some type of direction, even if it's not an answer, just what will give us the largest result. Like, should we start going down this, or should we go in a different direction? What is going to help us?
Right.
Just give us something so that we can start to work towards something. So that's kind of the steps we've kind of talked about. I know it doesn't sound like a really concrete, pathway forward, but we're just trying to throw as much as we possibly can at it to figure out exactly which way makes the most sense.
Is there anything us as board members can assist with that?
I think, again, if we want to do further correspondence, expressing the support to doing such, not only to the EPA and DEP, but also to potentially, again, our state and federal delegation, I think that that adds a lot of weight. And just your continued collaboration on trying to get the information out in the public and allowing us to move forward in a positive direction.
Okay.
Have something.
Yeah.
We may want to do that with some of the candidates that are running for Seth Moulton's position, since he is trying to move on to the Senate. And he had stated during the meeting that we had with him that he was not going to be able to help us, although he did boast about the money he received. He got Haverhill to remove the building there. So we may want to.
Did they get money for Haverhill?
He boasted it, but I just looked it up. I didn't find anything that he got.
Yeah,
from them.
I thought the community had voted to deficit spend to the tune of $5.8 million.
Yes.
Although I may be wrong about that, because that was the last I heard, because I know that they also came to MVPC to see if there was
Yeah.
funding help.
Yeah,
So-
no, I didn't say that they settled on the bid at 3.8, but yeah, they
Yeah,
secured
okay.
$5 million for the removal, and then Seth had a big article that came out that said he got him all this money to help get that building removed. I think it was in the tunes of 2.1 million. But when I looked up right now, it didn't say anything about it. But I know that he said no, he wasn't going to be able to help us. He was pretty blunt about it, which I appreciated. But since he's no longer going to be our congressman, we may want to start talking to some of the people that are running for that position.
We got 6 of them.
I was going to say, just because I know from personal experience, Senator Tarr's office was able to get us a meeting with his staff and Markey, right? Yes, and his staff at the same time, simultaneously. And I think that would probably be what we're looking for. I don't think, I'll be the first to admit, I don't read everything I should as well as I do. I try to, but I think flooding them with a bunch of emails and phone calls isn't going to do as much as sending a document that says, this is what we want to do, and this is why we want to meet with you, and then get that
We
meeting.
all collectively go through the town
Get-
administrator for sure.
And
Well,
we
go
did
right-
have a very positive meeting. I mean, I believe when Jason was the chair, he sat in on it, where we had a staff member from Congresswoman Warren, Senator Warren, Moulton's office, and then we had
Housing.
Tar, we had Ramos, and then we also had representatives from Mass DEP, EPA. I believe Rick was on the call. We had somebody from the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. There was at least a group of 15 of us on the call together. And to your point, Kathy, it was very well received to have us all in a room together to hear the concerns together. So I think even further providing the request of the town for them to intervene and to give us some type of direction or solution, I think is a good idea.
Well, to further the point there, I think there's nothing like going to their office and sitting down in person with someone from Markey's office and Tarr's office and laying out, we have a lot more now than we've ever had, thanks to your efforts, and lay it out and say, okay, here's what we're thinking, what do you think? Because they certainly are more knowledgeable in all of this than I know I am. I don't know enough about all the hoops you have to jump through, but we've gotten much farther than I've ever seen us get. And I would hate to lose the momentum by just sending a bunch of emails and phone calls. So maybe we could work to get a document written that encapsulates what has been found, that we've now upended the EPA's. I would put that right in there. Don't wait to hear from them. Tell them, we've now thrown their finding out. Their finding's wrong. So if that's wrong, what else is wrong? We want to know, and we want to find a way.
I don't think their finding was wrong. I just want a point of a clarification. Now, there's so much roofing material up there that they may have just sampled some roofing material that didn't have any asbestos in it.
Their finding's
So-
going to be wrong, and
Well, some of these
if I
material-
write the document, because, I mean, they just dismiss us. They've been doing it for as long as I've lived in this town. They're dismissive, and enough. You know, now it's falling down. We know that somebody's going into the building, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the adults in this room. So it's probably teenagers, right?
Well, I think reiterating the argument that.
And,
the
you know, what are we waiting for? That accident? Or are we waiting for something to fall off? Or are we waiting for the groundwater to get polluted? Which of these are we waiting for? I guess I'm just wondering.
I think your best bet is to tell the DEP and to keep driving home the point that they were willing to sample the roofing material that was on the ground that they found during their testing.
Yeah.
And the reason they did that is because we made the argument that we were concerned that that material may have asbestos in it. It could be blowing around the neighborhood.
Yeah,
Now we have more information that maybe demonstrates at least some of the roofing material, 12,000 square feet of it, likely has asbestos in it.
Yeah.
And those roof tiles, every time there's a windstorm, blows around.
oh, yeah.
You know, is there a lot of loose fiber in that material? Probably not, but it's still blowing around the neighborhood. And
Yep.
it still, to me, gets back to the salient point that this is a public safety problem on multiple fronts. The building's
Okay.
going to fall down, the fact that there are asbestos, you know, that's a health issue. We're going to find out the other stuff. You're concerned about the basement when it gets delisted or they do the work inside the
Yeah.
program and the building comes down, they're going to have to look at that then.
Yeah.
But I think you focus on those things that are tangible and visible and may make sense to them.
Okay,
Because they have, I mean, Mass DEP may, and I don't know whether they're handcuffed by the federal funding, so they have their own money that they could potentially chip in and help. And that was the whole reason why they started and did their sampling. So
okay. And you're going to stay in touch with us?
I haven't not
We-
stayed in touch
we-
with you. I
We
am
own a
ready.
piece of your time now.
I am ready. Well, I want to thank you, though, Kathleen, because the one thing that I've learned in I've been doing brownfields work since 2007, and the one common thing about successful projects is every single one of them has a champion, somebody that is willing to sit there and say, no is not good enough.
Okay.
And you have to be willing, and Rebecca and Annie have done that, and you've done that, and you just have to be a consistent voice
Okay.
saying no, and I think you're going to eventually get, and you may not like the number of times you have to say, we're not going to take no.
Okay.
But I think you will get somewhere eventually. I know one thing, if you just take no, you're not going to get
We'll
anywhere.
be stuck with, yep.
So thank you.
I appreciate that, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank you so much for all of the reporting and for going in there and compromising.
Yeah. And if you get questions from the public that come in, Rebecca or Annie can share them with me, and I'd be happy to answer them, and we'll get out responses.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Rick. I appreciate it.
Of course. Of
Thank
course.
you.
Have a great night.
You
Thanks.
too, thank you.
All right. So next up, we have Agenda Item 56-004, Uptack Road /117 West Street in Georgetown, request for continued trash and recycling services at MAP 56, Lot 4 on Uptack Road. So you'll see the town administrator provided some supporting documentation in our packet regarding this request. So this is a unique situation where the resident is located in Georgetown and Groveland, and their driveway access is in Groveland. The previous waste management provider collected both trash and recycling from that property. However, the home was not included in the original household count that we used to, for the new trash and recycling carts. You'll see in the documentation, the homeowners pay property taxes on the portion of the land that lies within Groveland.
Yeah,
So due to the property's participation previously and their tax-paying connection to Groveland, this is being brought forth as a special consideration. Did I miss anything? Is that sort of wraps it up? Okay. And do we have the resident
Oh,
here?
it's on
Oh,
Uptack?
hi.
oh, it's Uptack Road, okay, I thought for a minute, so, oh, I see where you are,
We need a laser pointer.
yeah.
So you can see where the Georgetown line is, right? That's the,
That's what I'm trying to look at, yeah. I'm trying to see.
could you help us with the map?
Trying to see on the map, because I actually have my property
Yeah.
bill here.
Yeah.
We have 1.13 acres
Okay.
that abut the front of the property.
Okay.
In fact, we also pay electrical to Groveland.
Okay.
Because that's where the pole is. The pole's
Okay.
the line. That's
Yes.
how I know that's the line.
Okay.
Oh,
And then
okay.
behind our house is also conservation land.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a half, 50/50. My ex-husband bought the house because
Yeah.
he liked that it was hidden.
Yeah.
It has a lot of, but we get water from Georgetown, but we
Yep.
get
Okay.
Um,
You're a hybrid resident.
Yeah, we cannot get mail delivered unless they're happy, like it's the people
Okay.
that do it regularly.
Yeah.
Because the Georgetown person won't cross the line, so they have to sort the mail and put it around, and they hand it to the Groveland, because they're both out of the same post office.
Okay.
So we also have to have a P.O. box, just in case somebody goes on vacation, gets a
Yep.
new job, because then it stops for a while. I've lived in the house, except for during my separation, my ex-husband for.
Oh, he wanted you to use,
Oh.
I always forget.
I know, and I do too.
If you
That was
don't
my
use the
fault.
microphone, the television
I
viewing
apologize.
audience, all of the 5 people watching us
I was so
tonight.
enchanted by our conversation.
I
Yeah,
know.
well, it's a
Completely
very
forgot.
strange conversation.
It is.
Okay, so I'll just state my name, Stacy LeMay and Derek LeMay.
Thank you.
And we live on 117 West Street,
Yes.
Georgetown, but we also own land
Yeah.
at the front of our property, which is Uptack Road. Yeah, so it's a very strange situation. I'm a 5th grade teacher. It's usually what we talk about on the first day of school. The kids very much like to hear the story about how I can literally stand in 2 towns at once. But I've lived at the house for approximately 34 years. My ex-husband had the house for about a year and a half before we met. And this has always been the way.
Yeah.
Like, we had the little recycling, it says Groveland on it, until it broke. And from what we know from our neighbors who have since moved on, her brother had built the house, and it's just always been the way that they did it. We only found out that things changed when our trash didn't get picked up last week.
Okay.
We had no idea. All of a sudden, we're like, wait a minute, why didn't they pick up? As I'm walking my dog, I'm like, everybody else got theirs picked up. So something must have happened. So we started looking and seeing what was happening. And we found the number of, if you didn't get the special barrel
Yeah.
call, and that's what led us to here.
Okay.
All right, so what would we need?
So I would just need a vote of the board to allow for them to continue to receive trash services.
Because their driveway opens onto,
Can I?
where,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I was
could
hoping
So
to
if you
do.
can do, you can read it better.
House is right, I think, right about
oh,
here.
there,
Okay.
okay.
And then the driveway comes up like this.
It's about 450 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
And so like our mailbox is right around here-ish.
Okay.
You know, it's,
okay.
You have
it's
to.
a mess. Right?
When my kids, who are now in their 20s and 30s, attended school, they went to Georgetown. I would have to drive them to the Georgetown line to have them take the bus to school.
Oh, okay, okay. So
It's not right there. It's a little bit of a distance.
so you have to go further up Tack Road to get in.
So,
where
well,
does it
it's
go?
the way I say it to deliveries, because that's also a problem,
Yeah.
because people tell us we don't exist, is you have to cross the line into Groveland, and then 70 up Tack Road is when they see the first mailbox. I was like, you got to stay, don't leave. You're in Groveland, but you got to keep going, and if you keep going up the street, you will find our mailbox, and we have to mark it specifically 117 West Street, Georgetown, because it is in Groveland.
So your mailbox says West Street, but is your mailbox on Uptack?
Yes. That's why we also have to have a PO box.
So again, it's why we needed the board to take a formal vote,
Okay.
because it's a very unique situation, and unfortunately, we weren't able and don't have the authority to
Correct,
make such
yeah. Right.
determination.
Yeah. And so what about emergencies?
We've tested it. It does go to Georgetown, but we did have to do, my ex-husband who bought the house, he was a Lynn police officer, so that was a concern, especially once the kids were
Okay,
born,
yeah.
especially because it's very much in the woods.
Yeah.
But we did do the test, and, well, we don't have a landline anymore, but, we go through, we did it with Georgetown. I teach in Georgetown, so
Okay.
thankfully, with also being a small town, I knew a lot of the police officers, and they were willing to
Okay,
work
so
it
they
out
know
with
where
us.
you are. Okay.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Yep. I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? No? Okay, all in favor?
And you understand
in
it's
favor?
automated, right?
Well, that's
Good.
how, yeah.
450 feet of driveway,
One absent.
not going to be the easiest haul. And the recycling is every other week.
Yes.
So you have to find it.
Thankfully,
A or B.
it's just the two of us now, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So you're all set.
Yes.
Thank you so
Oh,
much.
we do have extra cardboard drop-off out back, which I just used tonight. We have pictures to prove.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. Send me those pictures, by the way, I have to post them.
did.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that was all the beeping.
Yep.
I turned my phone off because.
All right, so next up, we have the Little Red Schoolhouse historic status. So this is a discussion regarding requests from the Garden Club of Groveland
Yep.
for the town's support in pursuing placement of the North School, also known as the Little Red Schoolhouse, on the National Register of Historic Places. So included in our packet is a letter from Elaine Wozni, the president of the Groveland Garden Club, and we also have a couple of members here to provide some more insight on their request.
Okay.
So I'm going to be good and make sure you go to the microphone now. Thank you. That's good, that's good.
So I made those same pictures for everybody.
Oh,
You
thank
already
you
got
so
that
much.
front
Yeah,
Letter,
I like the color. Pretty.
Thank you so much.
the pictures are after the letter. So, yeah, just a little background. I'm Diane Plantamura. I'm 22 Mill Street, Groveland, and I'm representing the Garden Club tonight. I'm not an officer, but they've asked me to ask you guys for your consent for us to proceed to designate, in the designation of the Little Red Schoolhouse as a historic entity. It takes a big effort. The Garden Club is willing to make the effort. It takes a fair amount of money, which we would apply to CPA for historical money. The building is the last schoolhouse of the original schoolhouses in town, and was decommissioned in 1956, and was slated to be a burn for the fire department, and the Garden Club saved it. So it's like quite a
Like
story.
a good fire.
I know. So the Garden Club has been operating there, renting the building from the town since 1965, so that's like over 50 years.
Yeah.
We have maintained the building as best as we can. About 15 to 18 years ago, I don't remember exactly, we had a CPA. The building was in dire need of repair, and Garden Club members are not repair people. So we asked for CPA money, and we were allotted $50,000 to repair the roof. When they were repairing the roof, one of the guys almost fell through because there'd been a fire in the ceiling, and the drop ceiling in the building didn't show it. So the roof was repaired, the ceiling inside was replaced back to its original. These are pictures of inside right now, if you haven't been in there for a while. The front of the building and the floor is original. The window frames and door frames are original. The blackboards are original. And we are maintaining those as best we can. In order to get the designation, we have to proceed with a bunch of tests, and Claire will talk a little bit about the historical, how we go about doing this. But we have to get started on it if we're going to do it for this fall's CPA term. Any questions about the building right now? It's in pretty good shape because of what we did 15, 16 years ago. There are some things that need to be redone, but that's another story. Kathy?
What is the two doors? Someone told me that once before.
So back when it was a Little Red School, the North School,
Yep.
the girls came in one door and the boys went in the other door.
I thought
Yes,
so.
they were separated by doors.
Can't go in the
So
same door.
it's still called the girls' entrance and the boys' entrance. Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Go ahead.
What would be the benefit of being on the National Registry?
It would protect the building, as you said, in perpetuity, whatever that means. It would protect the building from the fire department wanting to burn it down. No, that won't happen again, I'm sure. But it's a protection. Like,
What are the cons that go along with that title?
I don't know any. It would be a special spot in Groveland that we could, allude to in marketing or documentation or whatever. I don't know about any cons. We'd have to keep it up.
Yeah.
I think that's the only con that I'm aware of right now is, in terms of keeping it up, you have to keep everything time period.
Yep,
And if you don't, then you lose your status.
right.
And that can be very costly.
Well,
The cost
we
of-
kept it
Yes.
time period back when we got the 50K CPA money
Yeah.
15 years ago. We did not destroy any of the time period pieces,
Good.
parts of it. So that's not a problem, I don't believe. It
As
would,
of right now, yes. It's just the future monies
yeah,
to put into the building could be extensively more than it would be if not.
but we'd have to keep it up anyways,
Yes.
Jason. I mean, if the roof is going to fall down, then we have to, or it needs repair, we have to do that, whether it's designated historical or not.
Right, it just becomes a matter of the cost. I mean, to have a historically correct window frame put in versus another window, you get 5-6 times the cost. That's the difference in terms of the pro and the cons. Then you have the.
But that's already been done. I mean, the historically correct window frame, it's there, it's fine.
Right now,
They're
yeah.
in good shape, and they're the originals. And when we had them, when we had new windows put in, the inserts, we were, the contractor was arguing with us. He wanted to replace the whole, window frames, and we said, no, can't do it. So we're very attentive to the historical components. Some of us, it's mostly a garden club.
Yeah.
We have, we do projects for the town. So,
Ed, did you have any questions?
No.
Okay.
Claire, do you want to say anything about? I covered most of it. Yeah.
So you just need a vote from the board that says, giving you permission to pursue.
A CPA grant, so that, or to pursue whatever we need to do to go after historical designation.
It's a town-owned
Okay. yeah.
property.
Yeah, it's a town-owned building.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to give the garden club permission on behalf of the town to, $10,000?
That's what it costs to get that designation. Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah. Claire's
We
been
don't
through
have
it
that
with
this
Washington
year.
Hall.
Well, that's up to the CPA.
It's CPA
oh,
money.
so we go through CPA for it?
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, no,
I was
no.
gonna say.
No.
I was saying, we can't vote you to do it if we don't have the money for you to do it.
No. It's all CPA money. And
So the money is just like an application fee? They don't fool around.
Can you go up to the microphone for me, Claire? I know,
Yep.
I'm going to put you on the spot now.
you can do it.
I was going to ask about Washington Hall, because you're going through that process now, right?
We're at the point now where we actually just met with the lady who's going to do all the research, the final research on the building,
Okay.
and then she presents it to the state, and then it goes to the feds. Okay,
Okay.
that's the most costly part.
Is
It
that
really
part
is.
of the 10,000? Is that historic
Yes.
structure report?
Yes.
Is that, see, I did a little homework. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she would do, this lady would do the same.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get the same lady.
Quick question with, as far as the lease goes, does the wording on the lease need to change at all with this? Or no? I know, I didn't look at the lease, so I'm not setting any.
What do you mean, the lease doesn't specify anything in regards to whether it's historic or not?
Okay.
Is
Yeah.
that what you mean? The reason that the select board would need to be involved is they own no real interest in the property. They lease the property from the town. So the select board has the authority to authorize
Okay.
the lease. And therefore, if they want to alter the building or change the building beyond what's allowed in a lease, they need the approval of the select board.
Okay.
But in regards to whether or not it's historic or not, I mean, it's not really a decision for the garden club, it's a decision for the select board to
Right.
make.
Right.
And so from my understanding is they're just looking for approval from the select board for them to be able to apply to the Community Preservation Committee for a project to allow them to go through the process. But again, they don't own the building, so they would need consent from the select board in order to partake in that process.
Okay. And then one other question. I'll ask either one of you. So right now, currently, the garden club is in charge of all maintenance and repairs. Is that something that you just do on your own? Is that something that's reported to the town, or how does that,
Depends on what it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
depends how big or small it is?
Yeah, the town does.
Okay,
We close the building down.
yeah.
So there's no heating cost, yeah. Yeah,
There's a little bit. We come back in March.
okay.
I can pull up the lease right now that was signed from 2026 to 2029. I don't know if it's gonna pop up. But in regards to the responsibilities of the tenant versus the town, it's the utilities,
Yeah,
building improvements are not allowed.
right.
So any maintenance on the property would not be allowed without the approval of the town.
Yeah. Yeah,
The repairs are directly correlated to the use and occupancy of the structure. And if you recall, during one of our meetings, we did talk about the fire protection. And so we do have the building and facility supervisor who now goes out and makes sure that the fire,
oh, that works, yeah, okay,
fire extinguisher and whatnot are
okay.
working in coordination with the applicable state statutes. And we still have the ability as a town property to use the property with proper notice.
Yep.
And they also have insurance that they carry on the building for their use.
Okay. Well, we carry the building as our town.
We do, and it's not entirely true. There's been plenty of times where the town has put money towards the bulkhead, and a couple of others, we just removed a tree from the property. So, I mean, while the garden club has been primarily responsible for the building over the years, in the last 3 years, I can pull reports as to the financial investment that the town has made in order to assist and collaborate on that effort.
Yeah,
Because as we've all talked, we want to make this
Yeah.
a collaborative effort
Right.
together.
okay. So we need to just vote to allow them to file an application to CPA
That is what their
Or-
request is this evening.
get placed on the National Register as a historic site, right? So I'll make a motion to give the Garden Club permission to apply for a CPA grant in order to request that the Little Red Schoolhouse be placed on the National Register as a historic structure.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? None? All right, all in favor? 4 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you so much. And thank you for bringing that, sorry that gave you a hard time.
I knew it was girl and boy dogs. The old days.
All right, so next up on the agenda, we have fiscal year 2026 transfers, so discussion and possible vote on year-end fiscal year 2026 budget transfers. So I'm going to go ahead and, town administrator did provide some supporting documentation on this, but I'm going to ask Rebecca to give us an overview.
Of course, 100%. I do apologize, we are doing this a little bit out of order. Technically, we usually go through the finance board prior to bring it to the select board, but due to the tight turnaround time and meeting schedules, we are meeting with the select board this evening, and then the finance board is meeting on Wednesday
Okay.
to discuss the transfers. This is related to just one specific department, and as you'll see from the building commissioner, it is in relation to the building department. So there was one aspect of the transfer in relation to one of the inspectors being out longer than anticipated, and therefore the coverage for the alternate inspector
Okay.
resulted in higher payment.
Yeah.
While the alternate inspector was willing to donate his time, that's not necessarily how things work. So in making sure that we were compensating the individual, we had come up with the additional request for monies, as well as the mileage and phone reimbursement for the building commissioner. As you'll see in the correspondence that I was just on about the grant that he had received a brick grant, and through the reporting, there was some overlap in terms of what he had anticipated to pay and what he had in his budget. And due to that, there was some expenses that he was not going to consider to reimburse himself for. And obviously, as a employee, we wanted to make sure that he was being reimbursed for his time and his use of his personal cell phone to conduct his business. So we're looking just for a total transfer of $2,500. It's very minuscule in nature. We do have sufficient funds as part of our health insurance line to put towards that and cover those expenses. So we are respectfully requesting that the select board approve the transfer of $2,500 to the inspectional services expense line item.
Okay, I make a motion that we transfer $2,500 from the health insurance line item to inspectional services, building department expenses.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion or questions? Ed?
On these bills for cell phone, how come there's 4 different numbers?
So he has his personal cell phone bill, which includes his family's numbers, which is why he is only circling his specific line. So the bill is a lot larger than what he's requesting because it's his family plan, and he's only requesting for reimbursement for his cell phone.
Okay.
All right, any other discussion?
No.
All right, all in favor?
Yep.
4 in favor, 1 absent. All right. Next up on the agenda is the Whittier Regional Agreement Amendment Committee, or RAC. Review and discussion of the working draft regional agreement and potential feedback from the town. This is Select Member Jason Naves owning this discussion, or starting it. So the town administrator has provided the working draft document, and I'm going to begin this agenda item with Jason to present this draft and share your thoughts.
Woo-hoo! Well, first, I'd like to go over the questions that were provided in the packet. I did my best to answer them as I felt that the board would answer them. So I'm hoping everybody took a look at it and can tell me whether they agreed with my answers or not. I know I didn't answer the way that I would have answered on some of them, but I know that that's not what I was there to do. I was there to represent Groveland and the majority of the board. So did anybody have anything that they would have answered differently?
I didn't go through it with an eye towards that, I'll be honest. I was looking more at the document.
That's fine.
Yes, I was very focused on the document, too. But the straw poll was interesting.
Yes, I thought it was very interesting. Our last meeting at the Whittier meeting, I attended via remote,
Okay.
and it was a shouting match between several of the people that were there. It was very interesting to watch. They plan on having 2 more meetings, one more meeting to go over the draft document again, and then the last one to get the final vote on what we're going to send to the school committee to take over and try to put together the finalized document to get everybody to agree on it. They still need 100% approval from all of the towns, because it goes to the town meeting or the city council.
Okay.
That's who weighs in on the cities.
I saw the,
The biggest hangup has been the capital costs, which I think is a big mistake being hung up on that, because you're going to have a very similar capital cost regardless if there's a new school or not, with the amount of repairs that would have to be done in absence of the new building. So it's more important to push forward and get this situated, especially if you think that right now that it's unfair in terms of the capital assessments. So Kathy, you had a lot of different opinions.
Always do. Well, I know you said at the beginning that you're trying to get this ready to go to the school committee. And my concern is that until everything has been agreed to, I don't see any point in bringing this. There's too many important things in here that still need to be agreed to, I would say, by the communities before you want the school committee. Because then it goes to the state, right? To the school committee, then to the state, is that correct? Right? And then we have to wait for it to come back from the state, and then we vote it at the community level. Is this correct? I'm just trying to make sure I understand the process.
So yes, as soon as the school committee approves, it will go to DESI for review. Once DESI confirms that there's no issues there, then it would go back to the communities to be voted on by their respective legislative bodies.
Okay, well, on like a section by section, I guess, on the school committee itself, I'm more in favor of each member town having just one representative, because I feel that once you get beyond 11 people on a school committee, it's an exercise in futility. Hardly anybody gets to speak, and just a couple of people monopolize the meeting. I think you could weight the votes, but I would be careful about the weighting of the votes, because I wouldn't want it to be weighted based on the attendance as it stands right now, because if I looked at the enrollment numbers, I forget where they are in here, and Haverhill's 68%. So I wouldn't want their votes to be weighted 68%, because that's the 2/3 vote that's needed to pass a budget, right? So I feel like there should be some other reasonable calculation used to weight the votes that might be more related to student population or proportionals or something like that. I understand that the city of Haverhill, bearing more of the cost, would want a weighted vote, right? Just like Groveland, we have a weighted vote on Pentucket. I don't know if everybody knows that. Our vote is weighted, and we have 3 school committee members, and each of their votes is worth more than 1 vote, right? So
But you just said that you would,
I don't want to have multiple members for each
Right,
town.
I
No, because of
understand
the number of.
but you
because-
said per pupil.
Well, no, I said that you might want to examine total student populations as a proportional weighting. The one thing that you wouldn't want to do is have 1 or 2 communities be able to vote, and that would trump everybody else's vote. Assuming you give everybody 1 vote, right? And 2/3 passes a budget, right?
Right.
So that's what I would say needs to be, somebody needs to sit down and play with that to determine what would be fair, and then, what is, the Haverhill's the biggest, who's the next largest student population overall?
Amesbury.
Amesbury, okay. So, yeah, so you'd want them to feel that the weighting is appropriate. I would just,
So right now, they have 2 members versus just 1.
I would
So-
prefer to go to 1 member per community and weight it,
Okay. I
yeah,
understand that.
yeah.
So if you want to go to
Yeah.
1 member and you want to weight it, would you want to double their vote?
I,
Keep it the same as it is now, so that you can't
Right.
have one community over the other.
Right, obviously, I would not give anybody less than 1 vote. So the weighting would go towards the proportionally larger communities, that their vote would count for more. But it is 11 communities that have to pass the budget, right? 2/3 passes the budget. It doesn't matter that we're tiny, right? We could, 7 of the small towns can vote down a budget, and Haverhill can vote yes, and it doesn't matter. Do I have that right? I think I do.
The school
Yes.
committee?
That's how this works.
2/3.
Well, 2/3 of the
school
towns.
committee, not the
Once,
towns.
no, the towns. So what I'm saying is, why would the school committee be any different than the towns? I want to keep it reasonable, because I know they usually say when like 6, I thought it was 7 towns need to vote yes to have the budget pass. But let's say it was 6, whatever. It's 7, I think. But 7 out of 11 passes a budget. So within the school committee, voting to send that budget forward, you need 2/3 vote. So some kind of reasonable weighting. Obviously, the size of Haverhill as a city and population, completely negates our vote if you really do it on that basis. Just something that reflects, I'm just surprised nobody came up with anything that would have a table or something to show what are the possibilities. I mean, didn't they look into it in other situations like this? They didn't do a study of other weighting possibilities, how to do it? Because I think that's what we need. It's like something that makes sense and gives Haverhill, obviously the heaviest weighting, and then the next heaviest would be Amesbury. And then below a certain level, I wouldn't bother to weight any longer. I would just put us all, if we're all in a similar band of size, one person, one vote. Because that reflects how the communities pass the budget. Unless that's the way I've always understood it. But that's not done yet. Right? And I didn't know, like when you get to appointing members, it says the select boards of each member town, and it keeps saying, and the mayor of each member city. Why wouldn't you say just or? It's one or the other. It's not both. And means both, or means one or the other. So that goes throughout the whole document. That's just a little, I thought it was a little grammatical thing, to make sure it's clear that one or the other is voting to put people on it, because I thought that was fine. And the only other thing, and I didn't get a chance to look back at the Pentucket agreement, but when it goes into organization, it says they choose a chair and a vice chair annually, right? But it doesn't really say anything about rotation of that. I don't think Groveland has ever chaired the Whittier Regional School Committee. I don't think West Newbury has ever chaired it. Merrimack has never chaired it. My guess would be that Amesbury and Haverhill have chaired it forever. So it would be nice to introduce a rotation into the organization of the board, because that's what we have in Pentucket. And I always thought that way it made it very fair that each town had a chance to chair. I know it's hard with 11 people, but shouldn't there be some language in here that says something about the chair rotating through the 11 communities in some manner? I mean, I don't mean to tie them down, but at least that you can't do it again if you've already done it within 3 years, rotated around. That would force the rotation, right? I just think it would be nice to see that kind of rotation among the communities. I don't think I've ever seen that in there. And I'm just trying to see, I know it's a complicated document, I know that. Down in, why did it say that? Under section 4, the budget, it said under D, the approval of the budget by the member municipalities requires the approval by the local appropriate of at least, it says majority or 2/3. I thought state law is 2/3 for a regional school. I didn't think there was a choice. It can't just be a majority of the towns, it has to be 2/3.
The current method is 2/3.
Right. And that's what we have in Pentucket. That's what they went to court on and said, you can't have 3 out of 3. It has to be 2/3 passes the budget. So to say majority would mean that less than 2/3 would pass a budget. I didn't think we would want that. Wouldn't we want this to be similar to the Pentucket Regional Agreement?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure in this, well, it was one of the straw questions, and everybody chose 2/3.
Yeah, and I think under your.
With the exception of one or two that chose everybody.
I think the 2/3 is the standard. And under the discussion item, I think it is, maybe Rebecca knows better than I do, that when a budget fails, because we've been through that, they have a certain amount of time to revise the budget. Remember when?
Under Pentucket's agreement.
Yeah, but is that in the agreement or is that in the state law?
I'm pretty certain it's in the agreement.
Okay.
but it could be in state law as well.
So
I'd have
I
to
just put a
confirm.
question mark because it said discussion item, Jason, you guys had it, a box around it. That, should it be specified or is it already covered? So if it's already covered in the state law, you probably just need to refer to the state law, right? So, the definition of the capital costs is, it doesn't say anything that it has to be something you have to borrow for.
What section are you looking at?
Oh, I'm so sorry, I jumped down. Under the next following, section 5, apportionment of cost by the district. Because it talks about equipment and furnishings, and a vocational technical high school, that can be a lot of stuff, right? And don't you want like a threshold or something on that? Like, I'm not sure what we have in Pentucket that defines it as a, is that the one we just, the one we're trying to change to 20,000? No.
Ours
that's
is a
the-
little different.
Yeah,
Under
ours-
Pentucket, it's more so the threshold that falls to the district versus the threshold that falls to each member community.
Right, but what threshold does Pentucket use to make it a capital cost and then allocate?
Under our bylaws, it's $20,000. We were looking to change it to $20,000, but our agreement is anything under 10,000 is the responsibility of the
yeah.
district. Anything over is the responsibility of the municipality for our elementary schools.
Right, but in the case of Pentucket, the capital costs are allocated either as an override, right? Or if they are able, if we don't need to override for it, they can be, but they're still allocated on the pupil cost. But I thought they're defined as something that needs to involve borrowing, but I'm just concerned, like in the case of a vocational school, there's so many things. You know what I mean? Equipment and there's a lot. I mean, maybe that's what you want. It says it covers furnishings, additions, plans, architects, consultant fees, additions, related premises. But then it does at the end say principal and interest on bonds, but it doesn't say,
Incurring debt would be D.
yeah. But so capital costs are just nature of a capital outlay, such as. It's not a real specific definition, but I guess, is that what you need to do? That's the best you can do? I don't know. I haven't looked at other agreements to know, like other vocational school agreements. Did you guys look at them?
Mm-hmm.
Did they have any other way of identifying what, you know, like if you know, every year they have to replenish stuff in all the shops. Is that all capital? Or is that your operating budget?
Depends
How do you
whether it's
decide?
Machine or if it's the consumables.
Well,
If it's
Yeah, but I mean,
consumables, it's
there-
gonna be
there's-
operational.
yes, there's consumables, and there's breakages, and there's upgrades. There's a lot of gray area. I'm just wondering. It says original equipment and furnishings. So then after that, would that mean the next equipment is considered operating? I don't know. Well, anyway, I just wondered if you guys had looked at other agreements for vocational.
Yeah, I think they went through about 14 of them.
Okay, but it's just, I don't know. I didn't know. And then I also noted that in the apportionment method, you're not doing any of the two-step that we do in Pentucket. You're going straight out on the enrollment. And Haverhill's okay with that right now?
Haverhill's very happy with the way it is now.
But we haven't decided, but you didn't tie down the bigger problem, the capital.
No.
So that's what they're holding out on. So I I would not agree to the operating assessment this way until I see that Haverhill's going to agree to a reasonable allocation on the capital. Because I think this is a negotiation in process. Because right now, what I looked at is, under this method, Haverhill would pay more than they're paying now.
Yeah,
'Cause I think right now-
They're only allocated 48% of all capital costs.
No, I'm talking about the operating costs. Right now, I believe Whittier does the two-step. So in the first
Well, in
step,
terms of the operating costs,
yep,
yeah, it's all two-step.
This
That's
does
governed
not-
by the state.
no, this does not state two-step. No, I think the state gives us a choice.
I don't believe on operating costs. Capital costs is different.
We would still need to make our minimum contract.
Well, yeah, but you don't have to if it's already covered in the enroll. This doesn't say that they're using the minimum required. If that's what they're doing and then doing the residual on enrollment, it needs to say that. Because that does not say that right now. And that's why I went and I made a little Excel sheet to look at it. Because if it's just straight enrollment and not the minimum, Haverhill would jump up to 68% of the operating budget, and ours would drop down. But if you do the two-step, that changes. So if it's supposed, do you think it's supposed to be two-step?
Oh, I'm positive that that's exactly what the super said, that was governed by the state for operational costs.
Can we check on that?
Sure.
Can we, because I don't know that. I thought Greg LeBrecq at one point told us that we had a choice with Pentucket. If we ever wanted to just go to flat-out enrollment as a way of allocating the operating budget, we could do that. I know he said that. I mean, I thought the state allowed it if you want, as long as you meet the minimum. You're right, you have to meet the minimum.
Yeah,
But there,
like I said, I mean, that in our current agreement, it does not say anything about the two-step either.
well, because there was no two-step when they wrote it. That was written in the
And
60s.
that's something that the state has stepped in and said, this is the way it's gonna be.
Well, I think they give you two choices.
Yeah, like I said, the entire group that's been working on this has been operating on the assumption that that is not an option.
Then this should be written to say that, I think. Because the one thing we've learned the hard way, right, from the Pentucket, is make it clear. Don't leave it gray, make it clear. So if it's going to be two-step, then write it as two-step. Because otherwise, they can change it.
Well, if the
Doesn't-
state allows them to, but if the state
Yeah, I
doesn't allow
think-
them to, you can't. I mean,
Well, I think if you look up, I believe the state allows you to, but I'm going to check it out. The capital cost to be determined, that's the biggest issue. That, to me, this agreement should not go to the school committee until this is hammered out.
that's not gonna get hammered out.
Then it's not going to the school committee. I mean,
Then we don't have an option of getting a new school.
right, well, you can't, who do you think is going to determine this capital thing? The school committee is run by Haverhill, let's be honest now. And the way they would want this capital cost apportioned would be harmful to us, based on our total student population, not
Well,
the people we,
It would be a slight inconvenience at the current moment, and if it did get through and stayed the same, then you would have to petition the school board to change the seating allocations to match our capital assessments percentage. And if you did that, it would be, we would step up our percentage, because we have so many people on the waiting list, it wouldn't matter.
no, the way that Haverhill likes it right now is that it's based on our total student population,
Right, which
which
makes us-
crushes us.
It does not crush us. It
It
puts us at
does.
4.2% versus the 2.7% that we have in enrollment. We have more than enough people on the wait list to add those students from the wait list in to bring us up to the.
You know, do the
5
math.
points. I have, several times.
Show it
I went
to
back
me.
10 years.
I don't believe it. I don't think this goes anywhere until this
Well,
item
unfortunately,
is addressed.
we as a committee don't even have that say, because this is all governed by the school committee.
Then what was the point of the committee if they're not
Make
going to hammer?
everybody feel good and informed that this was happening.
Wow, I think that's
But I've already stated that before.
no, I thought that the capital cost, which is the most significant issue, given a new building has to be built, would have to be addressed in this agreement.
Well, like I said, even if the new building doesn't get built, we're going to get hit with just as much capital cost.
Yes, and having an updated agreement
It
that
does,
doesn't.
it does need to get addressed, absolutely.
Okay. All right, because I thought that would be in there.
Like I said, Groveland, in terms of Groveland, Groveland's safe either way. As
And-
long as we can convince the school committee that when they come redo the seat allocation, they allocate it based on our capital apportionments.
The way that the agreement is written right now, we're already getting assessed a capital cost that's heavier than it should be.
Well, it's
Okay, for the
heavier than our
roofs and the
current-
septic. But luckily, we didn't need an override. That's why nobody noticed it.
It's heavier than our current enrollment. 10 years ago, it was not, it was less.
I don't know. I think we're saying two different things, because then this apportionment of special operating costs, the night school, they're going to assess us for how many people from our town go to night school. They pay tuition to go to night school. Why should we have to be assessed for that? That's not in the current agreement. I've never seen that. So I always thought these programs were supported by grants and other things and tuition from people that go to them. And I don't know why it's being put in here that, if 10 people from Groveland go to night school at Whittier, we're going to get assessed for them. Is that what that says?
That was not what I believe that says, but
It says each member municipal share will be determined by computing the ratio that municipal's enrollment of persons in the courses on November 1st. I don't get that. That's an additional expense.
clarification on that.
Okay. I don't know, I'd appreciate understanding what that is. And then, under the debt, it says the school committee can vote to authorize the debt, and it says without regard for the weight of the votes. But then, it still has to go to town meeting, right? Doesn't it? For the Whittier to incur debt? Don't we have to do that for Pentucket? Even when,
No, that's
like, Page School is going to be fixed, we still have to vote it.
So that goes back to, again, the straw poll when we were going back and forth on whether or not it made sense to not allow a project if it required a override from a municipality.
Well, it may not, maybe each municipality would decide based on its assessment of it if it needs an override, but it says the school committee can vote it, but then later on it does say that it goes, I thought it said it goes to the towns.
That's
Oh, but
a
it-
disapproval of debt
Wait a minute.
authorization.
Yeah, it said the member municipalities vote disapproval of the debt.
So on one of the number 10, it says, should the authorization of debt issuance by Whittier Tech be contingent upon approval of a Proposition 2.5 override in any of the communities if needed? And then 8 of the communities said no, and 2 of the communities said yes, in all communities that require an override.
Right, but, all right. So the
Notice
first
of
one,
debt issuance not later than 7 days after the date in which the committee authorizes the accruing of the debt.
not later than are we saying the school committee can vote to incur the debt without the town voting? Without a town meeting? It says, in one hand, it
I believe
says,
that's the way it's always been done for what it is.
Essentially, it's the same process that they went through in order to get the approval of the project as a whole. They wouldn't go through each individual community. They went to us as a whole and said the majority of the district as a whole would dictate whether or not they'd be able to move forward.
right, and
So
that
that's
was
what
like a
that
one-time
process
thing, they
is.
tried that way.
But that's the process. Under the law, they had two different ways. Either they get the approval through the local town meeting, or they go through a ballot vote and get the approval that way.
Right.
Which would then take away exactly what you're saying. So under the law, that's currently an option. And so this is just solidifying that option, that they could in fact go that route if in fact the school committee chose to, which they did when we went through the original process of seeking funding
Which
for
is
the.
why they do put the laws in both of those.
Well, so it says in the first one, under one, it says, 2/3 vote of the members of the regional school committee without regard for the weight of the votes. And
And
then
that's sample
number,
language from Minuteman, which would only be relevant if there was a weighted voting system. So if
Yep,
you look
and-
at the footnotes, they clarify that statement there.
but then it says disapproval if, and it's fill in the blank, or more of member municipalities vote disapproval. So that's, they're saying the school committee can vote to approve it, and then the next one, they say, we can vote to disapprove it. Is that right? The committee, and then it says if blank or more member municipalities vote disapproval, the committee by a majority of the weighted vote may then seek authorization for the debt, and that's what you're referring to, the laws. But the little hashtag doesn't have a number in it.
No, because that's to be determined.
Well, what is it? Is it 2/3?
So this is just a draft that's for conversation and discussion.
Oh, okay.
There's no, the RAC committee has not come forward with any
Okay,
detailed, I mean, the point of bringing forward the straw poll was to
Oh,
show
okay.
you the temperature of the RAC in terms of what they are thinking on some of these very controversial issues.
Yeah.
The draft is just a way of trying to narrow down the conversation on these
yeah,
tense issues and figure out exactly what that language would look like and what the communities would like to see. So the point of bringing it to the select board at this particular point in time is so that you can advise your representative on the RAC of
Okay.
any issues or any strong opinions that you may have,
Okay.
so that they can bring it forward and say, just as you mentioned earlier, we are fine with A, but the board had said that we would really prefer to see a weighted vote, and we do not like your options
understand.
here.
Thank
Or we see that you had put in a hashtag here, we would like to see this number be 4.
okay.
You know what I mean? It's one of those types of documents. It's not a
Okay.
document that's been,
All right.
this is voted, this is the draft, we are all in agreement,
right.
this is how we're moving forward. Because if you look further down, there,
Okay.
anything that's in bold, or there's like a box that says
Yeah.
discussion, it really is a very, very rough working draft
Okay.
that we're looking at right now.
So I guess the major, the portion, the two-step versus what they say here, at the,
Under the operation. one of
yeah,
the
the
capital.
special operating costs having to pay for, be assessed some kind of an amount of money for members of our community that access the night school. I don't think that should be in there at all. At all. I've never heard of such a thing. The debt, I guess, is just confusing right now. It'd be nice to have it clear, more clear. And then, under the section for 8 amendments, it has and you said it's a rough draft, it says by majority or 2/3. So my preference, I don't know how everyone else feels, but would always be to stay consistent with a 2/3 standard, as that's what passes a budget, that's what passes a vote of the school committee, that's what passes an amendment, 2/3. You know,
And again, like the straw poll
Yeah.
showed, I believe that was what the majority of the,
okay, and so then whenever it says majority or 2/3, I would say, yeah, 2/3 would be nice. be a better route.
I don't think there was anything that was voted on by anybody just to be a majority.
That was, I mean, sorry to kind of drag you all through this so much,
What?
but
Having the amended agreement itself, wasn't that one of the
Yeah.
questions in there?
Yeah, but I thought that was 2/3 as well.
I just think it should be consistent, yeah. So, yeah, so basically, the capital being, having some, if there's like a couple of options that they want us to look at, we could look at that and play with that. And having the organization have some kind of rotation on the chair, I think that would be nice to see. Again, I don't think Groveland's ever been chair of that committee, so that's all. I'm done. Thank you.
So nothing on the
What?
capital?
The capital, I think, is the critical thing. I mean, I would not vote approval of any piece of this document until I see what's going on with the capital.
So no recommendations other than you just want to know?
Well, the recommendations I made, the one where I don't feel that we should be assessed for people that go to night school, because my understanding is they pay
That's not
tuition.
good, not the capital. We're just talking about the capital.
The capital
Any
said to be
recommendations for that?
determined.
Right, so do you personally have any recommendation for the?
No,
capital?
I thought you would have them in this document. I thought there'd be one or two choices.
Options to look at?
Yes, yes, exactly. If there's one or two things that people are kicking around, I would like to see it, see what the members are saying.
Yeah, the members aren't. They're just shouting at each other. So if you have a recommendation, I'll be more than happy to bring it back to them.
Okay,
If
well, I
you
can
don't,
look, I
then-
can look at that, then I didn't realize that, I thought when you, this was on the agenda, I thought that it was, all the stuff was in it, but,
No, well, like I said, like the
yeah,
school committee is the one that makes the final decision. We can
Okay.
present this all to them and they can just
Okay.
crumble it up and throw it away. That's their option.
oh, you're not gonna bring these things back to the other committee?
I'm gonna bring it back to the other committee.
Okay,
When the other committee decides what they want to send to
okay,
the school committee doesn't have to take it.
no, I know,
We're
you're advising,
hoping that they are,
yes,
because they're the people that wanted to have this input.
yes,
But like I said, the biggest reason why they wanted to do this is to make sure the communities felt involved.
right, so none of the members of this committee brought forward their thoughts about capital?
Yeah, of course they did.
Okay, because they're not in here in a
No,
box?
they won't be, because all they did was yell at each other.
Well, I'd like
Because
to.
They want Haverhill to pay 68% because they have 68% of the people that go there.
Okay,
Haverhill doesn't want to do that. And nobody was interested in doing the two-step for the capital because they don't believe the two-step is accurate.
there's no two-step on capital.
Yeah, they could be. You can utilize it the same way.
No, there's no minimum required
No,
contribution.
you just
Two-
utilize the formula in terms of calculated wealth and other things, but that's,
No, yeah,
there's several of the agreements that we had that
Okay.
in there.
yeah, okay.
So, yeah,
So-
I mean, and.
So
it just
Haverhill
depends.
doesn't want to pick up 70% of the capital costs, and the other towns are unwilling to pick up, 10% when they only get 15 students a year in, right?
Right.
Okay,
But with well, like I said, with the increase in terms of the people that are trying to get enrolled, our wait list is so big, it wouldn't affect us as long as our seat allocation matched our capital portion.
I don't see that. I would
Why?
have to sit down and crunch that out, because I don't.
You should, because I already have.
Okay,
I'm
well,
telling you that
share it
that's
to
the
us.
case.
Well, just share it to us then. I'm glad to look over any document that supports that. I really am, Jason. I'm not being like facetious. It's just, if I don't see the numbers, I can't wrap my head around it,
Right.
And I did look at like the percentage of allocation with the two-step and students proportions, because I saw that that was important in here, but I didn't have any other information on capital.
Yep. What are you, Ed?
All set? I
Ricky?
think,
Yes?
in the, you did a pretty good job. And almost every page is taking something from another district.
Different things, because we're all listening to
Footnote
footnotes.
on the bottom. But on the survey, there was, did Georgetown not participate in the survey?
Orlando was not there.
Now, how about particularly number 20.
Let me just do with that.
There was some abstention. Do you know the reason for the abstentions? And there was,
And your community envision a future where Whittier Tech is a successful institution, but your community is no longer a part of that district. Nobody wanted to commit to yes or no, so they abstained from the vote.
okay,
I
yeah, because there was a
believe-
couple of abstentions and then, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm all
And those, like Newburyport, they had like 3 students, but they're paying 26% of the capital cost. So they're like, you know,
Don't blame them.
yes. So he's there, he's participating, he's trying to make everything work, but he wants to make sure that everything's fair across all the communities. And same with Raleigh
I think they did,
and
I think they did a
Salisbury.
good job, and they came
Well,
up with. some-
Angus did all that work, so Angus is the one that did all the work. He
Yeah,
put it all
no.
together, he presented it,
Those
he's worked very hard. at it.
questions were certainly pertinent. Yeah, very good.
Becky?
So I was really hung up on the weighted voting, because a lot of that language is throughout there. I was looking, the footnotes there, the Pentucket Agreement is a little, has the weighted vote, and then it did mention the Minuteman Agreement. Kathy, I think you should get your hands on this one.
Okay,
It is,
is to die for.
The Minuteman Agreement?
yeah, the weighted voting on the Minuteman Agreement is,
Okay.
I'm not even going to read it out loud, because I
Okay.
think it would, I just couldn't get through it. It's quite a calculation. So,
It's really big.
yeah, it's, I feel like it would take forever to count the votes, to figure out
Yeah.
what happened, like, okay.
You
you're
want
worth-
something that's more simple, yeah.
Yeah, and so I
Well,
think,
And that's one of the reasons why I like the fact that even though we limit it to one person per community,
yeah,
like the cities have 2 people right now, so it would be 2 votes. So the cities can have 2 votes. Haverhill can have 2 votes for that one person. And that'd be an easy way to weight it without having them be dominant.
I know, I just wonder if we could look at some other ways.
Yeah.
You know, there's always more than one way to
yes.
do anything, and we all know that, so,
But I did see in this survey,
yeah,
most people wanted the different number of members per municipality,
okay.
instead of the weighted votes. And it might have been looking at that Minuteman Regional Agreement was,
Well, I think the biggest fear was that Haverhill would be overweighted because they have 68% of the population that go
right.
there.
Yeah.
And so how do you weight it without giving Haverhill complete control over everything?
Then we
Yes.
ask AI, that's how we do it.
Huh?
And I think there's ways to come around that, believe it or
Well,
not.
the way is how
So
it's
that-
done now.
yeah, I
one
mean,
way.
They don't want to pay 70% of the capital, then they shouldn't be getting 70% of the votes, and they probably shouldn't have 2 people on the committee either, or be chairing it every single year. I think just, it's one-time opportunity to make an agreement that maybe everybody feels like they're vested in it a little more than we were. I think in the past, nobody really cared. You know what I mean? Well, I'm sorry to say, it. I mean, we cared about Whittier, but we didn't care about the agreement.
Well, like I said, the RAC
know.
committee is only going to have 2 more meetings. So it's
Okay.
this next meeting and then the meeting after.
Okay,
And then whatever happens is going to go through the school committee.
okay,
So from there on in, we're going to have to go to the school committee
yeah,
when they're discussing the agreement and where it goes and how it goes,
okay.
and put
Yeah.
our suggestions in with the school
Or
committee.
we could invite that school committee member to come to us and sit with us.
We could, but we wouldn't be part of the discussion,
Why?
because
Oh,
the
we
discussion
mean
would
if they-
happen, they'd be reporting
Oh,
back
okay.
to us.
Yeah,
So if we want to be part of that discussion, I would recommend that, well, I plan on going regardless.
yeah.
So if you want to be part of that, I would recommend that you go there as well.
I thought this committee would, I don't know. I thought that capital would be hammered out at least with some options in here.
Yeah,
That's-
no, unfortunately, when everything was explained that everything was going to be, it was, the school committees had the final say regardless, then more and more people lost a little interest in. So Angus is, like I said, been doing this majority of it himself.
could I ask with the question number 3, what does your community envision should be the quantum of vote to amend the regional agreement? So Haverhill had unanimous, but everyone else had 2/3.
Right.
That's interesting. What was
Well,
that all about?
Because right now, it's unanimous.
Yes,
You can't amend it unless it's unanimous.
okay,
So we can't change the capital cost
Yeah.
unless everybody agrees to change the agreement.
Mm.
And Haverhill doesn't want that changed
Mm-hmm.
unless they get something they want.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's why Haverhill is still keeping that, trying to keep that unanimous, and that's
Yeah.
why they want it to be unanimous, because it is right now.
Right.
Oh.
And that works to their benefit.
Yep.
But that's why I want them to change the seat allocation to match our current capital obligations, because if we do that, then it really takes them out of the equation.
Yep.
Because then they're not gonna have 70% of the population there.
Yeah.
We had, what, 35 people on the list? On the wait list? I think it was, yeah, we had 30-something, 35, 30, 37 on the wait list. We have 35 that are currently going there. We only need to be at 55 to break even on our capital assessment. The only people that wouldn't make their capital assessment, because I did every town, would have been Newburyport. Because they just don't have anybody that goes there or wants to go there. Although they did have a big increase.
So the due date for you, you have, well, Kathy's feedback. You have a little bit,
Well, our meeting is next meeting is the 8th,
oh, in 2 days.
in 2 days.
Okay,
Correct.
okay,
And then after that, it's the 25th,
okay,
and that's it.
okay.
Did you want me to find the enrollment data?
No.
I had the enrollment data. That's what I used when I was looking at things, the two-step and all. Oh, you're talking about accepted, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
And those are just new students for the,
I know,
Coming
yeah,
year.
I know. I think,
that's not everybody that's in there.
No, just what there was for the lottery. I thought you were
Yeah.
talking about the lottery and accepting
Yeah.
only a certain 11 students currently, as
Yeah.
opposed to those who,
Because it just works when you look at the capital apportionment, it says it's the total number of students, to have the total number of students. But either way.
Do you feel like you have enough feedback to bring back in 2 days?
Unless you want to do more.
No, I think
no.
Kathy did a great job
No. Shut up.
with a lot of good questions. So
Okay,
let's see how it goes from there.
all right.
So nothing to vote on tonight?
No.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for representing.
Yes.
And if you can figure out that Minuteman agreement calculation, that'd be great.
I'm more concerned about the Chapter 70 fund money.
Yes,
Which, when they talked about that at the meeting, they brought up how everything increased so drastically. And I started thinking about it, and the number, because they pointed out Newburyport is one of the biggest increases in income, if you remember. You might not have been at that meeting.
I don't think I was.
So that's, one of the things they were looking at was an outrageous amount of income increase in terms of Newburyport. But they had 3,500 apartments go online that year. And 3,500 apartments at the average household income there is 186,000, 196,000. So it pretty much matches up with what they had. I was sort of surprised.
all right. Let's pivot. So next up,
It's good.
establish of an annual volunteer recognition program, discussion and possible vote to establish an annual volunteer recognition program to coincide with the board's annual appointment process. The program would formally recognize and celebrate the contributions of residents serving on town boards, committees, and commissions. So you'll see in the packet here, I just put something together with some options and wanted to run it by everybody to see what they felt was a good addition, but also thinking what's sustainable And what are we going to be putting on our town administrator, potentially as far as additional work goes? So making this easy, so this isn't, the flavor of the year. It's not something that fizzles out. But if we just look at the basics, so an annual recognition, and I know we just did our appointments at the last meeting, the annual cycle, so I was a little late to this, but in the annual recognition, highlighting newly elected and re-elected members, so that's something that, we could potentially have as part of our packet. And then in service milestones as well, too. So I think the hardest part with service milestones is working with somebody to figure out how long have they been a volunteer for.
Yeah.
Volunteers can be difficult because when you look at like the Council on Aging, they're only supposed to serve 2 consecutive terms before they
Is that
can.
And then they take a, wait, but then they come
But
back.
we haven't actually been enforcing a lot of those.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Just because we haven't had a lot of people.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So that becomes a little bit more
Well,
difficult.
challenging.
to be back.
I mean, I'm supportive. I think we should just get working on it. And Steve will probably have some input. A volunteer recognition program has to happen, has to be there. And at the annual appointment process is a good time of year because we've gotten through the town meeting.
Yep.
We have a little bit of time to sit down. So if we have to research and see how many years, if we get something a little wrong and someone corrects us, so be it. We'll try to get it right. But yeah, I think it would be nice to recognize, especially as we reappoint people, like, thank you for your 10 years or thank you
Yes.
for your 5 years.
Yeah.
Just that, I don't want to make it something that's so complicated that you can't do it
Right.
in that little bit of time.
Yep.
Because we do have a little bit of a lull there. And you get a new board member or two sometimes. So it'd be a nice way to, if you're just coming on the board, to, get your feet wet, get
Yep.
to see the volunteers and how long they served.
Right, right.
Yeah, so,
The other thing with service milestones you'll see on there was having some kind of like certificate or something that we sign.
I know, we could definitely work up some.
The other one was the Community Service Volunteer of the Year. I wasn't too sure about this one, but I put it on there just for
Yeah,
conversation, but vote by survey. And I know we'd have to request probably from the town moderator if it would be okay to add this to town meeting, because that's his
yeah.
show. So I don't know if that's something that,
I mean, I don't know. I think it's so hard to ever choose the best.
yeah.
So I tend to veer away from that, but I would go along with, when we get feedback, whatever the majority vote is, I'll support
Yeah.
it. I just sometimes feel like you pick one person and there's 3 or 4 others that are
Right.
equally as wonderful.
Right.
So I like the idea of recognizing them as we're doing the appointment process.
Yep.
I really, really like that, and if you want to tie in something to that in terms of a certificate or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's just manageable.
Yes. I mean, the thing is, we can start small and build on it.
Right, and
Right.
it can go in the town report,
Yep.
right? Yeah,
And then the other thing with the annual recognition is making sure, that's on social media or even local media to highlight our volunteers as well, too.
yes, that would be nice.
And then for select board meetings, so there's a couple of things here, either recognize one committee, board, or commission during the meeting. Another option is invite the chair or representative to provide an overview. We had garden club representation here, which
Yeah.
really is nice to have that.
Yes,
And maybe that could be something built into our department comment update section, because we don't always get those. Now, for this particular idea, we would need buy-in from the committees and boards to actually want to come in.
I know, give up some of their
Yes,
summertime.
yes.
Yeah.
I know there's a couple that,
Well, they can zoom in, too.
yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's good, too. It's a great idea.
And then the last one is the end-of-year appreciation event. Ed, you brought this up, and I
Yep.
thought that sounded really nice to do, and that's something maybe the board can help.
Yeah,
Sort
sort
of
of like
put that
right before the
together.
holiday break, our last meeting,
Yeah.
to have some beverages and some,
We
I-
set that
I
up a
can-
couple times.
I can bring Christmas cookies.
That's
I
right.
bake like
We had a
crazy.
Cookie swap.
I know, oh, Oh, cookies.
Yeah.
Cookie swaps are fun. Huh? Yeah, the select board used to do something like that years and years
Yeah.
ago, and then kind of got away from it. It might be nice to have a light agenda and just then invite the public in.
Yeah.
And the committees and anybody else that wants to tromp down in the freezing cold.
Yes.
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 Yeah, I know, I like all that. It's
All
great.
right. So overall annual recognition, Kathy, I know you've been giving feedback. You feel good about that? Community Service Volunteer of the Year, probably put a pause on that. See.
Why don't we get the other one started first?
Okay.
Yeah.
Create awareness with social media and local media. Find a way to incorporate some sort of recognition or inviting the chair
Yeah.
into our select board meetings.
Yes,
An end-of-year appreciation event.
that'd be great.
Okay. I did put at the bottom of my thing here a draft motion, but it will have to be edited to get rid of the last piece.
Okay. You want to read it and we can move it ahead?
Sure. So I have on here, I move that the Select Board establish the Groveland Community Service Recognition Program to formally recognize and celebrate the contributions of residents serving on town boards, committees, and commissions, including annual recognition aligned with the appointment process, ongoing recognition at Select Board meetings.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? None? All in favor? All right, 4 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you. Okay, so next up on the agenda, National Grid license agreement for short-term use of 150 Center Street. Review and discussion of proposed license agreement authorizing National Grid's temporary use of a portion of the property located at 150 Center Street. So the town administrator has provided supporting documentation regarding this request. And I'm going to hand it over to you to provide an overview of the license agreement.
Of course. So I had made mention of this particular opportunity at a couple of our prior meetings with the select board, just to keep you apprised of the conversations that were happening in the background. National Grid had contacted us and had expressed interest in utilizing a couple of areas over at 150 Center Street. Some of their original proposals were not something that we would consider. There was area that's under the conservation restriction, and some other areas that were being utilized by the police department and the highway department, et cetera. So as part of that conversation, they had identified another area of the property on the side of the opposite of where the Cricket folks utilize the property.
Okay.
Just scrolling down to the exhibit over to the side.
Yeah.
And they're looking to use the area for temporary storage of their materials for their transmission line replacement along their corridor. It would be a 3-year agreement. As you can see, as part of your packet, I've included the draft agreement that has gone back and forth with council. It includes any permitting that would be required. They would have to go to either the Conservation Commission or the Planning Board for any other activities that would trigger any of the permitting thresholds. They also would be providing a monetary amount of money to the town for the next 3 years with a 5% increase the first year, starting at $150,000. That would amount to about $475,000 at the end of 3 years that would go to the town. And the agreement also takes into consideration security of the site, making sure that their area is blocked off. It does not restrict access to the public to continue to enjoy access through the middle of the site over to the trails on the side and the trails on the back. So all of those remain open and active. And again, any of the security measures for that particular area will be fenced off and are at the expense of the leasee. We are again talking about a temporary licensing agreement. This is not long-term. There is no plans to make this long-term. We are very clear in the agreement that if there is any need for them to remove their equipment within 60 days, they must do so. So there are provisions within the document that you'll see that offer the protections for the town. So in having those initial conversations and even just having the conversations with the board, we find ourselves in a little bit of a struggle with our pavement management plan and some of our other financial planning mechanisms. So this is just another opportunity for the town to capitalize on land that's currently not being utilized, as long as there's no environmental and or other impact to the site, which there should be none, including the parameters within the agreement that express that they must leave or bring the property back to its original condition once they depart. It is an opportunity for us to then use those monies for allocation to our reserves, allocation to other capital funding, and or even trying to make some progress with our pavement management plan, in addition to some free cash monies, which would again alleviate any ability for or any reason for the board to go through the taxpayers to seek additional funding from the taxpayers to fund some of those more prominent projects that offer some real long-term impacts. So this is, again, an agreement that has been through both National Grid and our town council. We do believe that it offers fair enough protections, and we are looking for the board to vote to approve this short-term license agreement for 3 years.
And will that prevent the field from being used by the cricket?
So the cricket actually uses the other side that's not highlighted, and they have withdrawn their permit. So they are no longer utilizing the field. They have another opportunity that they are taking advantage of. So there is currently no use of either of those areas. It's just the access and pathways to the trails that are further along on the right behind the highway department, where you can actually see them, and then also in the back.
So this is where the cricket was.
Exactly.
Okay, now I have a better idea of the area.
I'll make a motion to approve the 3-year lease to National Grid as presented.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion from the board? No, did you want to have a comment? Just give us your name and address, that'd be great.
Thank you. Jan Dempsey, 33 Uptack Road. I had the opportunity to look at this today because it was posted, and I did have some concerns I just wanted to bring to the board. The main concern that I have is the area. This is the 150 Center Street area that we purchased in 2013 to protect our aquifer. And the space to be leased looks like it is within Zone 2 of our wellhead protection area of Well 1, which is our most used well. And especially after the discussion that the board had earlier tonight about the contamination that happened, that we're still struggling with.
Right.
I just wanted to be sure that we all considered the fact that there is a big potential for contamination when you have large trucks and employee vehicles parked on your aquifer. It's a potential to leak diesel fuel, motor oil, gasoline, and other petroleum products. And they are specifically restricted in Zone 2. So I'm just concerned that, I understand that it's $150,000, but I'm also just really concerned that we think this through. If you look at the list of the items that are to be stored there, there's also trucks, there's also potentially, storage space, office building, and there's also a big risk of compaction with all this weight on our aquifer, and which can have a negative impact on the water supply because it affects the recharge of the area to our well. And I think that I would appreciate the board really thinking about this carefully, because we still don't really know the impact of the quarry on our water supply with the 200 more units, and we are in a level 3 drought. It continues, and I think we need to be really careful about our aquifer. And I would also mention that in that lease, it talks a lot about trucks going in and out, noise, and added traffic. So I appreciate the board taking that into consideration.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Mike Dempsey, 33 Uptack Road. Speaking only as a resident tonight, just concerned about some of the wetland issues. There's a large wetland area and related 100-foot buffer right at the entrance to 150 Center Street, and the Groveland Wetland Protection Bylaw prohibits industrial work within those areas. So it's unclear from that diagram exactly what part of the property they intend to go into, but that needs to be taken into account. So hopefully you would require in any lease that they at least before being able to do anything on the site, that they file a request for determination of applicability with the Conservation Commission to determine what the impact may or may not be. The lease says filing with the commission potentially, but it also says that there doesn't seem to be any impact. But there could be an impact depending upon where exactly they intend on going in. The other issue is habitat related. So the whole area that they're going to be in is surrounded by Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program priority habitat areas. And so that needs to be taken into account. Again, in the lease, it says that they are not going to be affecting any of those areas, but we're not sure of that, again, because we don't know exactly where they're going with it. And so we have an agreement from July 1st, 2016 for a permit that was issued by Natural Heritage that the town is required to notify the program about any work on any of the areas within the 150 Center Street parcel 40-009. So I think minimally, again, before the work is done, that they should be notifying Natural Heritage to make sure that there's no impact and they're not going to make us do something. So the conclusion I have is that there's many concerns with this lease. I don't think that you should approve it tonight. I think that it needs some more tweaking at least. But you know, in light of what Jan said, you know, in particular, I think it's important to do our due diligence about this. The $150,000 a year, that sounds really good, but, you know, it's not worth going down the road of ruining the environment or our wells, because it'll cost a lot more than that to take care of it if that were the case. Thank you.
You know the square footage of that area that they plan on using?
Is it 10 acres? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Approximately 10 acres.
And we were gonna use almost 60 acres for mixed-use buildings, roadways and housing, what we were looking at doing.
There were talks about that, yes, correct. And I would like to make out a point of clarification. There are no structures being placed on the property. There are no foundations, no structures.
The office would just be a mobile,
It would be a temporary job site trailer.
yeah.
Do the vehicles have to go all the way into the site, or could they park on the side of the road on Center Street?
We wouldn't want them to
What?
park on the side of the road. They would go off to the side of the site, which would be,
And they're loading and unloading heavy.
Well, I know when they're loading, but I mean, if they're just going in to be at work or something, right?
so mind you, the highway garage is right there.
Yeah,
And then there's also the junk yard.
Yeah,
the
well,
junk
that's
stand
true.
that's right there. There's
Yeah.
also Dunn Landscaping with his trucks,
That's
et
true.
cetera. So it's not as though this
It is-
area is
no, I-
not,
yeah.
you know, secluded and whatnot there.
No.
It is in an industrial zone.
Yeah.
Per the licensing agreement, we are requiring them to abide by all of our bylaws,
Okay.
permitting. If it
Yeah.
triggers something, they're required. We're not exempting them from anything. We're not asking them to make any exceptions.
Yeah.
We will go through the proper protocols if they meet those thresholds. We say it's approximately 10 acres, depending on how that is. That could shrink down substantially, but it
Okay.
won't exceed 10 acres. So
Okay.
there's nothing that, you know, it's not completely unforeign to the site to see this type of activity. It's not being used as an industrial site. It's being
Right.
used as a staging area.
Okay.
We staged areas over there for the subdivision across the street, roadway work, paving work, all
Okay.
of which require us to file permits and go through the proper
Yeah.
protocol to protect the environment and do things as we are legally required to do.
Okay. So, are we allowed, like our building inspectors allowed to go on site and look and see what's going on?
100%.
And the Conservation Commission, if requests to go to a site walk, they're allowed to go do it?
If they would like to view the site, they can view the site.
And once, even if it's in process, then they say, we've heard from a resident who has a concern, we want to go look.
It is town property.
Okay, so
They'll
all of
probably need
our,
to notify if they're looking to go inside the gate area to make sure that it's safe.
Yeah,
But
but-
they would still be they would still be allowed to act.
they would be allowed. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. So if there's any concern, because we can shut it down in 60 days.
100%. We can cease all activity if we needed to, per the
Okay.
agreement.
Yeah. I mean, it's, like I said, people keep asking us to do something with this property, and we have yet to find something that brings, you know, brings back some revenue to the town. I mean, the cricket
Without
thing
a
was,
substantial amount of housing on it.
Right.
right, well, because, I mean, yeah, we've got a lot of concerns. So this could work, and if it doesn't work, we can shut it down.
I think
Right?
I think my issues is a lot of things like with the trucks and the vehicles. That's the only thing that I think.
Well, that's yet to be seen, how, you know, I mean, you have Dunn's Landscaping, like, right there with trucks and things
Yes.
going in all the time.
Yep.
Get the old plastic place
Yeah, yeah.
manufacturing, which is.
But,
not dump
but
This
it,
is-
until we see it, we wouldn't know it, you know, what we're dealing with. And again, as long as our inspectional teams can go in there, and see what's going on. And initially, would they allow like a site walk by conservation and building? I would assume our building inspector would go in, would he or not? Is he not in on this thing?
I mean, it's town property, so again, you'd be allowed to view the site.
Okay, yeah.
So, and it's just, again, if they had equipment stored there and it was gated to protect the area, we would just need to notify them so that we could gain access safely.
Okay, or the town planner, I don't know who would be the person you'd want to go in, just initially to see what they do set up and make sure that,
I can
We're comfortable.
I can continue to apprise the board on all of the activities. I can
Okay.
take photos. I can include that as part of my reports to the board every 2 weeks so that you can see that.
Yeah.
So I have no problem
mean-
continuing to get that information and reporting it to the board if the board feels as though that's sufficient, and/or if there is any issues, I can address them on behalf of the
Right.
board.
I mean, I don't like the idea of having all this junk there, but temporarily to help us get a leg up on some of the other expenditures that we're trying to handle.
I know, it's just the trash or waste dumpsters and the.
Well, I was going to ask about that. The trash and waste dumpsters, I would like those to be removed, weekly or something. I don't want that stuff sitting there, right? Do they?
So it can't just sit there for extended periods of time. There's health code violations.
Oh, okay.
for Storing
Oof, okay.
dumpsters and things like
Okay,
that's through the Board of Health.
Okay.
And that includes the construction equipment as well, construction debris, as well as food waste, et cetera.
okay. I still say, give it a try. If we're not happy with it, if we hear negative from conservation or from our building inspector or our town planner, somebody looks at it and goes, you don't want this here, then we would listen. But for right now, it seems okay, reasonable use of the land temporarily. I wouldn't want this as a permanent thing.
It is a temporary licensing agreement. It is not a lease. It is not a sale of property.
Okay.
It is not giving them an actual.
Yeah. Okay, yep. So I think I made the motion already.
Yeah, motion is a second, we're in discussion right now.
Yeah. Any other
Yeah.
discussion? Go ahead,
The
Ed.
only other,
Yes.
go ahead, Ed.
Right, did you have a question?
I didn't have a question, I was just gonna make a
Uh,
statement.
This looks like it's the area along Center Street that it had been proposed several times in the last few years after we purchased that. It has light industry along that area. That looks like it's the same area.
Yep, it's the
So
industrial.
if it would fit a light industry, then it certainly, this particular thing would work at $150,000 a year. And so with the end of it, you're going to get like $475,000.
Because there's an
So-
escalation cost of 5%.
And it had been brought up at a previous meeting before the town meeting to allow marijuana facilities in the town of Groveland where we might raise about $50,000. And that's something that, everybody thought that was the greatest thing because we might get $50,000, $30,000 to $50,000. Well, this, we're going to get $150,000. I think it's a no-brainer.
Okay.
And that certainly the marijuana is more dangerous than what would be moving into here. I think it's a win for the town.
The only question I have is, being the old sand pit, what was the access point to that sand pit? Is it the current same access point that is there now?
I would imagine.
I would imagine so, too. So I'd be less concerned about the compaction that you mentioned just because of that. Because the surface compaction from the big trucks and stuff, that damage has long since happened. And from what I just read, it's irreversible.
All right, and I think my comment would be to request the boards and committees to keep an eye on this together, right?
Yep.
Make sure that this is,
Absolutely,
if you see something, say something.
yep, absolutely.
I don't do that at all.
What?
I'm always questioning when National Grid's around.
Yeah, no, because I think,
Yeah.
I think these points are valid. Like, I absolutely get it, right? So it's a financial gain. I mean, it's way more than we got from the cricket field, so I totally get that. It's controlled, but a little bit's not, right? And I think that's the gray area that's concerning. So having the town really keep a close eye on this to make sure there's no trucks leaking, right? Because, I mean, even where I work, there's someone that goes out and checks the parking lot. If your car's leaking, you have to get it off the property.
Oh, good.
Yes, it's very, so to just keep an eye on things like that, I think are
Yeah.
really important to sort of put them, make sure they're accountable for those things.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll call for the vote. All in favor? All against? So 3 in favor, 1 against, 1 absent. All right, next up on the agenda, we have school enrollment data reconciliation. Review and discuss discrepancies between enrollment data reported by the Pentucket Regional School District and the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary education, and to consider actions necessary to obtain complete and accurate enrollment information. So with that being said, Kathy Castronellis, I'll let you
Okay.
take it away.
So what I'd like to do tonight, because I know it's a long meeting, is just kind of give you an overview and give you time to kind of look over these documents. So if we could, Rebecca, do you have it to put up? I'll just give you the overview so you know what you're looking at, and if it's possible to fit it into the next agenda for more complete discussion, because I do want the board to consider what actions they do and don't want to take on this issue. So basically, as has been said so many times, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but we know that 60+% of our budget comes from the Pentucket assessment, which makes it a critical assessment. Okay. And this whole enrollment count thing came about kind of almost by accident. I was more looking at, well, why is our assessment going up so much and the other towns aren't going up as much? Do we have that many more children in the school, or is the state formula changed by that much? And working with the town administrator, if you flip to this page here that looks like this, and I know it's easier if you could slide to it on over this page. This is what really caught our eye. It's the third, there it is. So the first error, if you look at the bottom, no, make it bigger, go to the bottom and blow that up. It's obvious to the naked eye that at the bottom where they have a subtotal and then the total, the numbers are exactly the same. And I think I spent the better part of a day thinking I must be losing my mind, but because it's supposed to be the subtotal plus the total from up above and then the grand total. And that was a big mistake, which made me realize this is kind of a static document. So when you have a static document, it means people are keep inputting the data. They're not tying it, it's not reconciling. They're just putting the numbers in, because this page appears in the middle of the budget. So then that led to a more thorough look, and then a second error was found in the top where they billed us for about 9 North Shore Tech students. And that error did not get corrected. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was still a mistake. But then finding that led me to think, well, why don't we know how many students we're supposed to have? How are we supposed to verify our student allocation? So I went to the state website and got a little more immersed in the department, DESE, and then thanks with the help from the town administrator, she was able to get me the actual data that Pentucket puts into the system for 1 year. It's a massive amount of student data by their numbers and all that. And I was able to tie it out to the DESE total. I said, okay, I get this. And then I looked at the Pentucket total and said, I don't know where this number comes from. So at one point I thought maybe they were missing a category of students that were homeschooled, but I've since said no, because if you look at these separate pages at the back, and I want you to go home and spend more time on it, where I compare Pentucket, PRSD, to the DESE numbers for FY24, FY25, FY26, FY27. And again, thanks to our town administrator coordinating with a contact at the DESE, we were able to get for the first time a breakdown on the DESE data that'll let us compare this more than I've ever been able to compare it before. You can see that it sometimes doesn't look like it's that different. And many times it doesn't look like it's that different. But if you go to the last and final page, so if you could go to the last and final page, and I think, again, Rebecca kind of pointed this out, what looks kind of small when you're allocating a $4 million override adds up. And so what you're seeing here on these numbers are, if I were to take what we got assessed, what we were actually assessed by the number count Pentucket uses, versus what if they use the number count that DESE has. So it's Pentucket minus DESE. So if it's a positive number, it means you're paying more under Pentucket than under the DESE numbers. Well, you can see Groveland's line right across the top. We are always paying more. Okay? And I've, at times I feel like I've zoomed in and been able to identify maybe a category of students that would account for these differences. But I'll be honest, I think a lot of it, the problem belongs to Pentucket and this static sheet, because this is a very complicated way to add students. And I don't know what number they're verifying to either. So, jumping to the end, because I do want to not tie you up too long tonight, possible recommendations or options to think about would be to, one, obviously, adopt the DESE October 1 enrollment and use that in the step 2 of the allocation. Number 2, maybe one or more of these, request that Pentucket publish a reconciliation from the DESE results to their categories. Number 3, establish an annual verification timeline tied to DESE's release. And number 4 is more for the select board to consider, authorize them to formally request DESE-based allocations from Pentucket and to decline any alternative methods lacking a transparent reconciliation. And by that I mean reconcile your data to what DESE has from you. Tell me why it doesn't add up to the same exact number. Or we can't continue to allow our citizens to pay more money than it looks like they should be paying.
Yeah.
So overall, again, I had an enormously big Excel sheet that anybody is welcome to look at. Rebecca has it. She's going to knock herself out on it. But this is the summary
Yep.
from that sheet. And I did verify on my sheet that my number totals tied to DESE and tied to what Pentucket published. So I've done everything that I can with the information that we're able to access.
Yep.
I cannot tell you why the totals are different.
And we've already gone to the superintendent, and he cannot tell us why either.
Correct. So what I would like is to have you spend a little time reading through it and looking at, this is just a mistake sheet, so I wouldn't waste too much time there. But take a look through this. This is good data, and this is good data. And consider if you have other ideas. But I do feel that once we're all on the same page, having the superintendent come in and meet with us would probably be a very good step, because we have not done that yet. We've sat with the other 3 towns. They're like, yeah, DESE's great. Until they hear, well, we could do it this way or that way. And to me, that you can't have it, you have to have a consistent standard. And we have to have some way that we can look at this budget and say, these are the amount of students we're financially responsible for, and we can verify that number. We know that these are our students.
And I will say, I believe that the other communities are in agreement, because we did have that initial conversation, and they were all very much of the same mind that we should be using the DESE numbers that we can tie back, and do so as other communities do. The Select Board in Merrimack had approved signing on to the letter, as did the Groveland Select Board. When it went before West Newbury, it wasn't that they didn't agree with using the DESE numbers. The conversation just took a turn in regards to exactly what mechanism are they using now? Why is it so different? What numbers are they using? So that they too, like Kathy is mentioning, wanted to understand where the discrepancy is. Why are they not using the DESE numbers? Can you show us what you're doing? And they had reached out to the superintendent to come forward with that information. And I know there's been some back and forth with both the town administrator in Merrimack, myself, and Angus, as well as the superintendent, because he's like, well, what do you want me to do? And so my question was, well, let's get DESE involved and make sure that they can explain what those enrollment numbers are, because I don't necessarily think that the district knows what report it should be utilizing. And I think that's causing a layer of confusion, because every time we say the DESI numbers, it's like, well, there's the option this, and this includes this numbers, but then there's the January numbers, and then there's the October numbers, and we're like, well, no, it's just the October 1 enrollment numbers as reported to DESI through the SIMS data. And that doesn't seem to be very clear. And so that back and forth is causing a lot of confusion. And I think that if DESI can give us a more definitive, use report 1, then that would be the answer that we need to be able to provide to the school as well as to the other communities, so that they can further that conversation, so that they can backtrack exactly where those discrepancies are.
And do you think you'll get a definitive answer from DESI? Have you talked to DESI? Because I don't want another DCS type answer.
Oh.
BC.
So I did talk to DESI, and we did have a conversation, and so I forwarded the correspondence from the superintendent, and she said that she agrees, that she understands that there's confusion, and she would run that up to her team to give us some advice. I have yet to hear back, but agreed that it would need to be a definitive opinion from DESI. And if not through this particular individual, there are mechanisms for us to go through the commissioner's office to get some sound feedback. Because it's very clear that when you have 3 options and we're saying use the DESI Foundation enrollment numbers, and they're still giving you 3 options that are not the DESI enrollment, there's a disconnect there.
Right.
Yep. So that would be what I would suggest, if you don't mind spending some time just looking over these numbers. And, I mean, they kind of speak for themselves, and just, I think it's just common sense that you want a consistent enrollment standard, that we can all go, okay, that's what our enrollment, like, we'll know by October 1, our percentage share of the Pentucket budget, which is what we kind of need to know.
Right.
You know, are we going to be 36%, 37%, 39%? What is it going to be? Because just because our population grows doesn't necessarily mean we're going up to 40%, because it depends on what goes on in Merrimack and what goes on in West Newbury. It's all relative, how the pie gets divided. So I just feel that what happened in a smaller way than at Whittier, which is a much older agreement, but over the last years with charter school, with homeschool, which the state calls virtual, with Choice Out, they started to create this complicated chart where, when you look down, it's really, I think probably the differences where the mistakes, if they're being made, are in the elementaries, when they're trying too hard to figure out where all the Groveland students are, what school they're in. I don't care which school in the district they're in. If they're Groveland students, just add them up, because that's what DESI does. They don't try to break it down and show you which kid is in 2nd grade at the Page School from Groveland. Who cares? Why does it matter? Right?
Right.
Yeah. So, and the one caveat I'll say I didn't even bother to allocate, because it's not of consequences, is there's 2 or 3 students in the district schools that belong to teachers who work there, and I believe it's in their contract that their child can attend one of our schools. And what they do with them is they just get our overall percentages, DESI does it, and then allocates a percentage of that student group, whether it's 2 students or 3, to each town.
Okay.
It's fine.
That's where the .5 student comes in? I didn't know.
No, the .5 is going to be the preschoolers.
Oh, okay.
So what happened, if you looked back a year before I started looking at the data, Pentucket would have had like 30 or so preschoolers. Well, this doesn't show you the breakdown. They did, and then all of a sudden, you'll see it drop down to like 9 or 10, because you do cut them in half. They're only half-time students.
Yeah,
They don't stay all
that's
day.
true. Okay.
Yeah,
Just curious with it.
yeah, because
0.5.
DESI cuts them in half, and Pentucket now doesn't cut them in half, they just put them in as halves.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of consistent.
Yeah. Yeah.
I found consistencies. It's just, I cannot explain this business, why our assessment is consistently higher. makes me feel bad. You know,
So-
you'd like to understand it.
Right, so homework for the board is to review this.
Yeah.
Look at the options that you mentioned. Desi may come back to you with something definitive,
Hopefully,
so.
but I won't bring it forward unless they do.
Keep asking.
Okay, yep,
Right, but, I mean, the next step would be to just, in our next meeting, maybe a brief conversation.
yep.
And do you want to have Dr. Bartholomew come in? Do you want to see the data that's behind this data? Because I'm glad to share the whole sheet with you, but it's going to be, you know, grades 1, pre-K through 12.
It'll be a long meeting.
No, I'm glad to share it with you
Yes,
in between them,
yes,
if you
yes.
want to see it. I didn't know how much to bring.
Do you feel like we'd be ready for the next meeting to?
I think you'd be ready based on this. I think this is enough. I mean, this kind of explains the why of it. Why did we ever trip into this area? Well, because of that.
Yeah.
And then noticing that Desi and the two totals don't match, and then
Right.
Desi did give us a breakdown, maybe that one sheet, but once you open up the Desi sheet, which has only about 4 categories on it, then you go into the Pentucket sheet that looks like this.
Yeah.
You're trying to compare things, it's so difficult.
Yeah.
I
And the
did
issue-
make an Excel sheet that does it.
And the issue we ran into as well is that Desi was able to help us identify where the count differentiated from Groveland's perspective, but was not able to share with us the data for
Yeah.
both Merrimack and West Newbury.
Correct.
Since that needs to be requested specifically from them. So that made it a little bit more challenging for Kathy, I think, to kind of go back and look at all of the other data from the other communities to see exactly where the count was off.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so this will continue.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's going to take us a bit. My goal would be hopefully by the fall, we'll have resolved within the district. We'll all be on the same page. We'll
Yep.
agree on a way to verify enrollment numbers and say, okay, this is what we use.
Excellent.
Yeah.
See, you had another project. When Valley Screws all set,
There's always enough.
you'll always have this.
I know.
Always had that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Kathy, though, for
Ah,
putting
you're
that together. You made it as simple as possible.
As possible. Yeah.
All right. We're up to appointments and resignations.
I'll make a motion to appoint Emily McCarthy to the Groveland Day Committee effective July 6, 2026 through June 30th, 2027.
Second.
All right, any discussion? None? All in favor?
Yep.
4 in favor, 1 absent? Did you want to make a motion?
Make a motion to appoint Lawrence McKelney to the Community Preservation Committee effective July 6, 2026 through June 30th, 2029. You didn't,
Second? Okay, all in
oh,
favor?
it's like, we didn't vote yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
all in favor?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, 4 in favor, 1 absent. All right, next we have up approval of the minutes. You'll see there's May 11th, 2026, and June 23rd, 2025. Looks like,
Why are we getting June 23rd, 2025 now, over a year later?
That's weird.
So we did have a request for those minutes, and it was recognized, actually, it was one of your select board members, Steve Baker, was doing some research in regards to the recreation conversation,
Oh.
and he recognized that we had not had
Yeah.
minutes. So we went back and we realized that they were not done. So we did another reconciliation, and that was the only one that we had not done. So it is an oversight by our part.
I was absent, so I'm abstaining from the June 23rd.
saw that.
Okay. Jason, you want to do
I'll
the
have
June
a quorum
20?
To do the 23rd then.
You can just move that one first.
Are you there for June 23rd?
2025.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were there.
Mistake.
You were there. You were
Of course I was
chairing.
there. Were you there?
Good, I was there, I was the
Okay.
chair.
Okay.
She just told me.
Well, you going to make the
No, I
motion?
already
or-
looked at it,
Okay.
I circled it, make sure I'm both of them.
So you want to make a motion
Make a motion that
individually?
we approve, yeah, I can do it.
Okay.
That we approve May 11th, 2026 Select Board meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay.
I was there for that.
All
You
right.
tried to trick me.
Any discussion on those minutes? No? All in favor?
I
4
know
in
what
favor,
you're
1
saying.
absent?
I'll
He
make a
did that.
motion that we approve June 23rd, 2025 Select Board meeting minutes.
I'll let you second this.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Nothing? All in favor?
I'm
3 in favor,
abstaining.
1 abstention,
And
1
one
absent. Next up, we have,
We have more?
there's more, older unfinished business, but we're just going to leave them committee board template for the Recreation Committee, fiscal year 2027 goals. Be prepared for the next meeting when we have our full board to discuss those and agree upon them. Other items not reasonably anticipated at the time of posting? Silence, okay. Select board member reports, committee and external representation. Jason, I know you had your Whittier covered. I don't think there were any meetings since then.
No.
And let's go to town administrator's time.
I will be very brief. There's not many updates. As you're all aware, I was on vacation last week. However, there were a couple of items that I just wanted to keep you updated on. So for the Salem Street paving update, we had talked about the last meeting that there was an issue with the pavement that they put down due to the temperature as well as rain. They have been out and they had removed the pavement that they put down and replaced it. So I just wanted to make sure to update the board and let you all know that it has been replaced. Also, as you've seen, and I've been reporting to you, their drivers are still on strike for the MEVA. This does impact our fixed route, 2 of which run through Groveland. The update from the administrator today is that the conversations have been ongoing and a formal meeting with the union is scheduled for tomorrow. So hopefully we'll have some good news to report. I also wanted to just let you know that the assistant treasurer collector position is still open. We are conducting interviews and hopefully we will fill the position. Donna has moved over effectively to the assistant accountant position, but she has been graciously helping as we transition and find a replacement. Also, the board and committee email addresses, we are moving forward with supplying email addresses for all newly appointed elected board and committee members. This policy is being developed to encourage the use of town email for all official town business so that we can comply appropriately with open meeting law. As part of that rollout, we are looking to create procedures and policies that will be sent to appointed and elected board members so that they're fully aware, just again to make sure that they understand that their personal emails are subject to the open meeting law if they are conducting town business, so they should use their town email when they are acting in their capacity, but they should also not be using their town email to set up an Amazon account or set up other types of things. So we are putting together some, again, procedures and policies to initiate as part of that rollout.
Can I make a comment to that one? Is part of the policies going to have, like the verbiage on the bottom, like that disclaimer? Because I think I'd asked when I first joined the board, was there like a standardized email signature that should be used? I think at the time there wasn't, but it might be good to put that into this while you're rolling it out.
We can do that for sure, and that would make a lot of sense.
Yep.
And then lastly, another big update that you're all very familiar with, on June 26th, there was a 42-inch sewer force main break in on South Mill Street at the pumping station in the city of Haverhill. Due to that break, the wastewater was discharged through the Merrimack River instead of being sent to the treatment plant. As of July 1st, an emergency bypass was constructed, and now there is no wastewater running to the Merrimack River. There is now work ongoing for a second bypass lane, which will increase the temporary capacity and will support their future repairs for the water main. And the city is coordinating with Mass DEP, EPA, and local health and conservation officials on this matter. So as you are aware, we have been working with the Board of Health. The Board of Health issued a statement. We had put down postings down by the boat ramp. We have been communicating and continue to communicate with our regional partners to ensure that we're involved in the conversation and that we can alert our residents if there's any issues. We did have a couple of strategic calls with the governor in regards to the response and her coordination with DCR, making sure people were aware at that particular point in time that while the water was not safe to swim in, beaches and the locations were not closed to the public. Once the testing had been put in place, we've been working with Senator Tarr's office as well as Representative Ramos's office and also our federal delegation for any additional emergency response funding that may be available to the region in regards to this particular issue. But again, we've been having those conversations, we've been continuing those conversations, and hopefully we'll be putting in preventative measures moving forward, as well as encouraging all of our neighboring communities to communicate effectively so that we're all fully aware of what's going on, because what impacts one community will impact the other, especially when the river is involved. So upcoming events and administrative approvals, there was no field use permits. We have a very busy week coming up. The planning board's meeting tomorrow. The Whittier Tech RAC committee's on July 8th. Finance board, like I mentioned, is also meeting on July 8th for the transfers. The library board of trustees is meeting on the 8th. Conservation commission's meeting on the 8th. The Groveland Housing Authority is meeting on July 15th, and the Board of Health is also meeting on July 15th. For procurement updates, we have awarded a contract to Cassidy Corp. For the Bagnell Elementary School entryway upgrades. That was part of the approved capital project. And then we also extended our contract with EJ Paving into its third and final year for the roadway resurfacing. So we will be going out to bid next year for the roadway surfacing contract. Projects and projects, nothing has changed except for the administration side. I would like to point out, as you noticed, there is no more town administrator newsletter because we are back in action. So I just sent out the first town administrator newsletter for July 1. There were some hiccups with the technology. We are working out those bugs, but hopefully we'll be back at it, and I'll be sending another newsletter out in September. Projects in progress, things are pretty steady. I did remove the we had the Washington Hall slope on there. I believe that Claire Walsh, as part of the Historic Society, is working with the Highway Department as well as the contractor who originally had done the work to come up with a solution. So I just removed that. But otherwise, everything is the same as was reported at the last meeting. And then again, because of my vacation, my meetings, events, and seminars were pretty brief, but I had the ones that were here for the week prior to. So if there's any additional questions in regards to those meetings or issues, I'd be happy to discuss them more. Although, actually, as I just look at it, I was going to send out an update, and I did forget, but I do want to put on our next agenda a topic in regards to the Basileir Bridge project. So I was contacted by Mass DOT and District 4 for the project that's happening over in Haverhill and the traffic mitigation that will inevitably impact Groveland for those who are looking not to utilize the bridge and coming up onto the Gardner School Street intersection. There has been talks about providing a temporary traffic signal in that location for the length of the project. It is a 6-year project. They're not sure exactly what the impact will be, but they are running some initial traffic assessments and traffic counts of what's currently there. And currently, as we all know, that intersection is not ideal if you're looking to take a left-hand turn out of Gardner Street onto School Street, particularly during heavily traveled times, so in the morning and in the afternoon. So there's nothing that's been determined at this point in time, but due to the impact to us as neighbors, they have reached out, and we had that initial meeting. So at our next meeting, I will be looking to try and place that on the agenda so that we can have a more detailed discussion. Again, nothing's been decided, nothing's been determined, but making sure that the board is apprised of those conversations.
I have to say it.
Go ahead.
Why don't they just stay on Salem Street and use that traffic light?
On Salem Street.
Yeah, from Haverhill. If they're coming from Haverhill and they don't want to use their bridge, why do they have to go down Gardner? That's all like neighborhoods and fields, soccer field and all. Haverhill always likes to cut through all our neighborhoods. Put them on Salem.
I don't think we'd have that
Put
option.
those guardrails.
Put
Well,
a
yeah, there'll
sign.
be a detour sign, right?
Residents only?
The messaging is not to detour through Groveland. The messaging is to go through 495 if you're looking and getting
good.
up to different areas. They're not looking to detour into Groveland, but during their extensive engagement with the Haverhill residents, it was brought forward that, well, we're just going to go through Groveland, and we're just going to go through here. So because of that feedback, they're trying to be proactive in identifying the routes that people are saying that they're going to travel to see whether or not there would be an impact and whether a temporary or longer-term solution would be necessary in order to mitigate the effects. Because to Jason's point, you're not gonna pull over a car and say, are you a Groveland resident or Haverhill resident? You can't drive down the street. It'd be very complicated
but I
to
mean-
do that.
Let's be honest, there's a couple times a day that there's a little bit of a backup on the Gardner Street trying to get out onto School Street, right? And that's the same time that School Street tends to be a single continual line, right? And you wait, and usually someone will let you in. That's what my experience has been. But you put a traffic light there, right? Now you're cutting into that hill. They're backing all the way up there into Georgetown, and the people on Gardner are now backing up all the way, blocking in everybody on Gardner Street from their driveways, right? I mean, I'm just saying, it's only for a small part of the day that there's that little, it's in the morning a little bit, and in the, like, 4:30 to 5:30 time, right? 5:30 to 4:36. I mean, can you do at least a traffic assessment before you agree?
They're definitely looking into it, because the concern is that if there's nothing, it's going to back up and there's going to be no relief.
Good, they'll go
So-
another way.
And that could be the same approach. So it was just an initial conversation.
Yeah.
Nothing has been decided. I do want to make it a formal agenda item so that we can have a more.
Yeah,
robust
no, I agree,
conversation.
sorry.
But
I
again,
just-
it's not, it's just purely conversation at this
Yeah.
particular point in time.
We'll add it to the next agenda. Perfect. All right, any other questions or comments for our town
No.
administrator? Nothing? All right, next up is select board time. Ed,
I don't have any.
nothing? Jason?
Nothing today.
Kathy?
Done.
I have nothing either. It's late.
Make a motion to adjourn at 10 PM on the dot. Yep.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Nothing? All right, all in favor?
Oh,
4
yeah.
in favor, 1 absent. Thank you so much.
Well, that's how we started.